Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Sarah Griffiths, Rob H., Ben White, Maximum Gravy, Austin Whitsit, John Kays, Tommy Swagnett, Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Boznail, Sampson, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, theflatearthchannel.com, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
At 1 women, 10 women, it's just I don't know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it has produced hypergamy. I mean, also it has made 49ers, right? The internet, which I don't know if you know what a 49er is. It's a woman that acts like a 9, but she's really a 4, and she shops out of her price range. No, she shopped at her price range. So she's expecting this high value man, but what is she bringing?
Yeah,
Nasty attitude, a thorn in the side. I mean,
right.
Seems like I've got some Sandman
It's
fans
not like
in.
your days, Steve. It's different.
Got some Sandman fans in.
Yeah.
Is that what this is?
What's that?
Said we've got some Sandman fans in.
Here. What's up, Nathan?
Just hearing a bit of misogyny.
I mean, this is what it is nowadays. I mean, the truth is the truth. I mean, right? It's different. You got media, music, internet. It's not like them olden 30s and 40s anymore.
What's the dealio? Why are you moaning about women in general?
Well, when you have children, especially boys, when you have sons, you kind of look at their future as in finances, where they're going to go in life. And of course, dating and getting married will cross your mind. And you're going to look at what will be available for them. What will the future kind of be like? So you go down that path as well. And you start to learn, I guess I would say, the red pill of that. Just like flat earth. You want to teach your children as much as possible.
Yeah, and you brought up how divorce is on the rise and marriage is plummeting.
Yes, it is. Divorce is on a huge rise and marriage is low.
And now we need God more than ever now.
Yes, we definitely need God more than ever. For the children, definitely. The children, definitely. Marriage is beautiful for the children, but it's not as valued as much anymore.
Yeah, Neil's here now, so... Hey, Neil. Did you hear the bing bong and then decide that everyone's going to be quiet? Oh no, he's run away. You can carry on talking.
Now I'm here.
Good afternoon. Am I coming through?
Yeah.
I was hearing you before when you let me in, but I didn't have anything on my screen.
Okay, well, this is a good start.
Well, I don't know what happened. I don't know if I was in, I was out. All I had was the join button going, and nothing was happening. But I was hearing you. So anyway, these guys are persistent about 10th man. They're basically saying he's handling it like he's just a layman. There's experienced people that still believe that the earth is a sphere, and not even believe, know that the earth is a sphere, that use the sextant daily. So that's their argument.
Pretty rubbish argument.
What was that?
The rubbish argument. The principles that are applied to triangulation via way of a sextant are utilisation of a straight flat baseline, and that's described in all of the manuals. So he's referencing globe believers. Now, if their appeal is to say, well, these people describing a flat baseline that can only be acquired from a flat Earth is being disseminated to you or written down by people who believe in a sphere, all right, that's absolutely fascinating. Meanwhile, we need a straight baseline to do this, so Earth must be flat for this to succeed as a method of navigation. So we don't really care about the beliefs of the person disseminating how they actually navigate the flat plane we dwell atop. Oh, you believe that you're on a sphere whilst you tell us about the flat plane we dwell atop and the straight flat baseline we need to acquire in order to do triangulation with the GP of stars. Yeah, that's flat Earth proof right there, my friend. You still believe you're on a sphere? That's fascinating. I've ruined your conversation in Discord. You were chatting happily till I got here.
Seems Don left.
Neil's dropped, so he's presumably in a rubbish reception area, but there we go. That's life. Thank the Lord. 10th man's here to stop this dead air.
Good morning.
Hello.
We're going to stop dead air. I love it. Dead air's already stopped.
I barged in a Discord conversation and I was like, hey, what's with the misogyny? And then everybody just thought they'd punish me by just completely going totally silent.
They're showing their cards. Hey, I'm gonna share an article here. This is great. Let me find it first as we talk. We can talk while I find it. Where did I put it? That one. So it's interesting. I was listening to Mr. Sensible's video about Mitchell, and he was talking about triangulation versus trilateration. And Mr. Sensible was saying that the sextant is using trilateration, not triangulation. And he spoke with such confidence, you know what I mean? Just like, you're so stupid, Mitchell. This is how it's trilateration, not triangulation. And all someone has to do is type in triangulation versus trilateration and start reading. It is comical because what it's
ask you something.
Hold on,
real
Neil.
quick.
Hold on.
Because what it says is that triangulation in these, and it's all the articles, there's not one that says otherwise. Triangulation uses angles. Trilateration uses known distances. So if you're talking about the sextant and it's an angle measuring device, guess what? It's triangulation. It is comical. They don't know what they're. Well, let me round off. They don't know what they're talking about. All they do is make up stuff, throw it on the video, and speak with a little bit of confidence. But then the minute you say, "Oh, I'll go check it out," it's over. The ballers lie all the time. Go on.
You know what the term con man comes from?
Yeah, someone who cons you.
Yeah, but what does that mean?
Find
What's con short for?
Conjure.
No, confidence. So a confidence man is a man who persuades you, gains your trust and confidence, and then convinces you to give them all their money before they run away and leave you not realizing that you've just been scammed. That's a confidence man.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to look at it like this because I understand what they're saying. But if you do it like, say, electrician, or we'll use me, a flooring guy. Now, there's a manual on laying floors. So a guy could come to me that has never installed floors before. And if he reads from the manual, it's going to come out correct. So I don't know what they're talking about. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, you're reading from manuals that you're picking up, right? You're doing your research on it, and you're learning all about the sextant and how to use it. So it doesn't matter because you're using it the way they're telling you that you have to use it or apply it.
They have videos. They
Right.
have. I've talked to the navigators who run some of these shows. I've chatted with them. I've texted with them. The point is, if someone on a video is demonstrating how a sextant is working, and then you can pull up the manual from different sextant manufacturers and read it, and then you can just go to the plethora of sites on celestial navigation, and especially boating sites. Having a problem finding this reference, but anyway, it's over at that point because they're telling you and they all say the same thing. And then someone says, well, you're wrong. I said, no, I cited everything. I've got references to everything. Here's the website and here's the manual for the sextant. Now, what they do is they say, I bet you've never seen a sextant. I bet you never held the sextant. Why don't you just read the manual of the sextant and then you'll find out, 10th man. You see, all they're doing is projecting because they got nothing. And so I say, fine, I've touched the sextant, I own the sextant, and I read the manuals of a sextant. I stand by what I say. It's just like they threw up something just because they know people are lazy. And as Nathan said, they become con men. But I just say, go look it up. Go look, like Mr. Sensible calling triangulation and trilateration and saying the sextant does trilateration. Well, a sextant is an angle measuring device, and triangulation uses angles to get distances once you do the math. And trilateration uses distances, known distances, not angles. Well, I've never seen a video saying that the sextant is a trilateration device.
Oh, I've seen one by a con man called Mr. Sensible. I didn't actually see his video. I saw someone else highlighting how he was conning his audience. I think the name of the videographer was Mitchell from Australia.
Yeah, but see, 10th man is not. He's He's just breaking down what a sexton does. He's not going out to be the sexton master that could just go into the middle of the ocean and get anywhere he wants to go. He's pointing out how the tool works and how it cannot work on a sphere. End of story.
Not only that, the tool is referenced back to a flat map.
Yeah, and a flat sky.
Using a right angle.
All we're doing is detailing how it actually works. That's it. That's all 10th Man's doing. He's not doing anything elaborate. He's not bending any truths. He's not conning anybody. He's literally just detailing how an angle measuring device is applicable to triangulation to find your position on a flat plane. That's all he's doing. And where's he getting his source information from? Well, anybody who's detailing how you use a sextant.
Yeah, that's what I just said. But you said it better.
Say the same things in a myriad of different ways. Well, for your average YouTuber, Neil, they've been encouraged not to repeat themselves at nausea and keep their points concise. But that's when they're talking about some media event or something that's trivial. In this instance, this is an education show. So repeating things in a myriad of different ways from different people in different tones and timbres is what gets the message through in a more concise way, as opposed to the need for quality YouTube videos that have one piece of information followed by another to keep it high impact and high excitement levels. Well, this is an education channel, and I understand that that has to be sacrificed, and repetition is the key. To get someone to understand a point in the first instance, you must first summarise what you're about to tell them, and in so doing, tell them what you're going to tell them. Then you tell them what you are telling them. Then you summarise what you've told them. So you tell them, then you tell them, then you tell them.
Can you repeat that? All right, I'm going to share a screen. Let's see if I remember how to do this.
Got you loud and clear.
But in terms of a format summary, introduction will tend to tell you what the main body of the information will be. So in the introduction, you're telling them what you're telling them. Then you've got the main body of the presentation. That's you telling them what you told them you were going to tell them in the summary. After you've told them, in the introduction rather, you then sum up what you've just told them in the summary. So introduction, body of information, summary. You're just telling them, then telling them, then telling them again.
You see my screen?
I don't. Have you shared it?
I believe so.
I don't think you have. Maybe stop sharing and then start the process over. Sometimes it doesn't throw
Okay.
up the share once you've done it.
All right, hold on. Get out of here first. Share. Oh, I know what I've got to do. Are we good?
Okay, yeah, I think we're good. I think we've got your presentation now.
See that beautiful sextant? That's the one I own.
There we go. I've got it up now. Just took me a little while.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a German-made sextant, Freiberger right here, you can say.
Click on hide,
Marvin.
where it says hide. There you go.
Okay. Hide.
Just ugly,
So
that's all.
Yeah, I got you. I'm afraid to hit buttons when I'm not sure what I'm doing. So yeah, this is the one I bought. Never been used, brand new out of the box, certificated, beautiful metal sextant, German engineering. It's an angle measuring device. This is what this is. And then you start your research, right? You say, all right, let me get this into, is that too big, or you want me to make it smaller?
It's fine.
Okay, so there's a lot of these voting magazines. This is just one of them, and this is January 1992, and it's going to go to this point right here, and it's going to talk about celestial in a nutshell. Now you figure it's a voting magazine, celestial in a nutshell, and then the first image you see is using the sextant to bring the sun down to the horizon, and then do your little waggle in order to get vertical. So you do this waggle until this is barely touching the horizon at the ocean, so that you on the rocking boat could get this line right, this vertical, because you need that 90 degree to the horizon. You need this perpendicular. And so, and they say, don't say mark when it's here. Don't say mark when it's here. Say mark when it's here. What's mark? That's when you say, got it. First, look at your watch from the seconds to the minutes to the hour. Then go to your sextant and get the angle and the minutes off the sextant. So all you got to do is watch a few videos, and this is how they say it works. Now, if I report on it, as previously discussed, someone's going to say, he never owned the sextant. He just bought one. He never touched one. Okay, so he bought one to touch one. I said, why don't you handle the argument? Why don't you attack the information
They can't.
that I'm getting? Because they can't, right? Thank you. I was going to keep going until someone said it. But anyway, they can't, so they have to go on these other subjects. But all you got to do is read a manual or a book, and I'll wait until my next few books are almost here. And I mean, I got a pile of them. I'm going to be sharing these books. I'm going to be sharing who wrote them. I'm going to be sharing pages and chapters from them. You think that me throwing what I've just thrown up now is my argument against the globe using the sextant? Wait till I get these books, everything highlighted, and start quoting and showing the actual books in my possession. And I mean, they're old, they're new, it doesn't matter. From the 1800s to now, they all say the same thing. They all say this. And what is this? Sextant. The marine sextant is a device for measuring angles. Okay? Well, is this guy lying when I find it in every publication saying the same thing? No, he's not lying. What is this picture? What in the world is this? Who could draw this picture on a curved surface and put this box here? What is that telling me, Mr. Sensible? Is this trilateration or is this triangulation process here?
Triangulation either.
Measured,
it's not triangulation either because it's false.
No, it's the process. It's the process.
Yeah, but the diagram you're waving your mouse over with the sun is showing a 90 degree to a curved surface.
No, that's the funny part about it, yes. Let me finish up. Because when you do one reading, you're going to get a circle around this sun here, as we know. And it's right here. So here's your dead reckoning position. And here's the radius looking down from on top of the sun. Here's the sun right here looking down. That's the spot over the earth the sun is. And this is a radius because you're over here. And you could be anywhere on this circle and have the same distance to that GP. You can't triangulate that way. You need another one. And the third one even makes it better. Unless your second one, part of it's over land and you're in the ocean and you're on the boat, then you know it's that one. It's pretty simple. This box that they draw says that this is flat. This is flat. But they have to do it over a curved surface, which does what? Destroys this device for measuring angles. So all you got to do is go research what an angle is. You need two straight lines meeting at a corner, creating a vertex. That's an angle. Well, let's see. Here's one. Here's two. There's a corner. There's a vertex. Oh, here's one. Here's two. There's a corner. There's a vertex. Here's one. Here's two. There's a corner. There's a vertex. Well, I guess you need three straight lines for three vertices. How do you do it on a curve? Can't find one publication, any kind, mathematical, yachting, that says otherwise. The angle measured with the sextant is in reality one corner of a right triangle formed by you, the celestial body and its geographical position on Earth. A right angle formed by you on a celestial body's GP on Earth. Earth is flat. Let's keep reading. So let's see. Now, as you probably know, great circle arcs can be measured in degrees, and it's happy fact that it's a bulgy bottom triangle. The number of degrees in the arc defined by the bulge is equal to a number of degrees in an angle at its top where the sun is, because this is a right triangle and two acute angles add up to 90 degrees, and thus the top angle is equal to 90 degrees minus the angle at your corner, the angle you measure with your sextant. So by taking sextant shot, the sun, and subtracting it from, should we say, Nathan, the dreaded, don't mention 90? You know what's so funny? Is that they contradict themselves all the time with pictures and everything else, but they can't run away from what an angle is, and they can't run away from 90. Because every time that you say that I am shooting a sun, and I have to do this little waggle so I could get it vertical, you're saying I need a perpendicular. I need this to be perpendicular right here. That's what you're doing. And guess what that is? That's your 90. In fact, a zenith position, by its definition, is directly above something. Like the guy here with the sextant, his zenith is right here. Okay? And then the sun's zenith is right here over the Earth. Well, what is, if it's directly above you and it's a plumb line, and they show this picture, and you got to use angles, and it's a sextant's angle measuring device, every zenith position is a 90. These people are doomed.
They say don't mention a 90. That picture that you've got now on the top left, that is why they say don't mention a 90. It shows why you can't do this on a sphere. Now, you have to use a 90, that's how triangulation works. It just doesn't work on a sphere. Now, in the drawings, when these people aren't being challenged by us, they just slap in a 90 on top of a sphere with a curve going between you and the 90 GP of the star. It's like, no, that's a flat line then. The fact that you've drawn it on top of a curve doesn't mean that what you're doing isn't acquiring that 90 to the sun in this instance. Doesn't mean that it's not a flat line for your triangle between you and it. There is. That's what a triangle is. It isn't the surface that they're utilising in this instance. Now, what they are doing is using the horizon and then assuming that the distance beyond the horizon is still flat to get the GP, which could be well beyond the horizon. That's what the tool does. So you've got a flat baseline, and all they do in depictions like this is slap that triangle straight on top of a curved surface, like it works. No, it doesn't.
Yep. And an angle could never be achieved with a curved bottom baseline. And you need a baseline for this box that they keep drawing when they tell us how it works. I didn't draw this.
Well, Adam did. So Adam's got a version of this where he took the... do you remember the picture that you got with 3 circles that's semi-3D? So it's got the 3 circles of equal altitude tipped on their side and then 3 triangles on top of them. Well, in that instance, he's bent the line for triangle B, or triangle 2, and made it look like this depiction. Well, just if you can, just trim this out and screenshot it and send it to Adam, because this is absolutely ideal, right? That's what they've done in the same way as Adam has tried to show him what they're trying to do by sandwiching on a triangle when you've got a curved baseline on it, as you would if you had a spherical surface, which we don't, beneath your feet. Well, this is the depiction in an actual manual, but they're describing it with the actual box there to show how wrong it is in terms of the spherical surface. There's a 90-degree box.
Yeah, I've already sent it to Adam and Brian and Mitchell. You remember that other reference that I pulled up that gave us S1, S2, S3?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's the one, right? And so then I'm going to send the picture to you again. We've seen this picture, but we got to keep seeing it. It's a master bead. You can post it. I'm down here, so go to the master bead picture. Celestial body, sextant angles. Just tell me when you got it up there. Send you a second one as well.
Yeah, I've got the celestial body sextant angles up.
Yeah. Now this is off of a navigation video screenshot. Did I draw that? No, I just took a screen picture. What's he saying? He's saying anytime you do a vertical angle, whether you're shooting something on shore like a lighthouse from a boat from the ocean, that's a vertical angle. Because people, if you don't realize, you can turn the sextant sideways and do a horizontal angle, which they do when they're near shore because they want to know that lighthouse on the right and then that other church building on the left that are on the cliffs overlooking the ocean. What's the angle there? And then they draw straight lines and find their fix that way. Okay, so that's a horizontal sextant angle, but this one is showing a vertical sextant angle. Well, we all know what the word vertical means, I hope. Well, what does it mean? It means exactly what the last picture that in that boating article talked about. It means there's a sun straight over a part over the ocean, and you can draw a box there because that's a 90, and there's a guy in the boat. And then go to the next one I sent you.
Before you do, there's no horizon depicted in 90-degree Muppet Vision orthographic view. So in terms of where you can just describe the horizon being in terms of the point of view from the boat, which I note has already got the dip angle incorporated. So they've taken the angle that they're measuring down to the ocean floor because that is what gives you your straight flat baseline to make it purely geometric. However, if you were taking this angle from the boat itself rather than standing in the sea to use your sextant, you've got to correct for that. That's an aside point. What the guy standing here is looking out to, what's i.e. in the lens, is the horizon. Now, for the sake of this example, we're going to say that the horizon's here, where this arrow points down. Now, that is the point where you're going to acquire your straight flat baseline. But the GP of the star is way beyond, or the sun in this case, that position that you've got to give you that horizontal, that flat baseline, your first angle, your flat, to give you 90 degrees where it meets the GP of this sun or star that you're measuring. So the horizon that you're measuring, it's not that you get to the horizon and then it carries on curving away 8 inches per mile squared beyond it. No. You have to have it straight way beyond the horizon that you're actually looking at, all the way to the GP. And how do we know? Well, because there's a 90 degree at that point for you to do the triangulation to gain your position with 3 or 2 areas of equal altitude to 2 or 3 stars or a sun at different times. Well, all you're doing with that is acquiring this baseline by way of getting a flat line to the horizon and my point, which is why I interjected, sorry, 10th, beyond, beyond the horizon. So the flat line is continuing beyond the horizon that isn't depicted in this Muppet Vision representation. Do you want me to move on to the next slide?
Yeah, I just want to comment that you're just doing what you told Neil. Repetition, saying it a little different, but clarifying so that people can get it. So good job. Yeah, go to the next slide. So next slide is from the same video. Look at this nonsense. How does this work? Do you see how comical this is? Once you, now don't let Mr. Sensible do your research. You go do your research. Just type in trilateration versus triangulation and find out which one uses angles to get the distances. And the minute you see that the angle one is triangulation, then you can mark him off because he said it's the other way. So he is being dishonest. And all you did was type in and do a little research on your own. Get those lazy fingers working, okay? I didn't spend hundreds of dollars on books to waste my time. But look at this picture. It is a nonsense picture. It is impossible. You can't even fool a grade school kid on this one. This is a triangle on a sphere? Well, I guess maybe you can Photoshop it there like this or something, but you can't use a tool to do it because you need a flat baseline.
Hey, Brian.
Didn't QE also pick up on this and is using horizontal and elevation angles?
Yeah, you can't have an elevation angle measurement derived from a spherical surface. So elevation angle, those two words destroy the globe Earth paradigm. Just those two words.
Yeah, beautiful pickup there by QE, and I'm glad he's doing it. If you go to the next slide,
I'm going to start the live show. Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, we've got 30 seconds. Right, let's transition back. Last slide. quick.
Slide. This is an actual plotting sheet. Let's say it again. Actual plotting sheet. Read the last sentence at the bottom.
Way too small.
Note, I'll read it. Note, lines of position or the Sumner lines are always at right angles to the bearing or azimuth of the celestial body.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, Brian's Logic, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Good afternoon.
Morning.
Hello.
Excellent. All seem thoroughly warmed up from the pre-show. That's good to see. Excellent work, 10th Man. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Well, back to you're going to need R for that. You're going to need a radius, and they don't have a radius, so no. The horizon is optical. The curvature that doesn't exist.
Okay, we will open it up in each instance, but rattle on quickly. So, is there anybody in Discord or on the panel that's specifically got anything that they want to highlight or discuss in regards to the physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve? Speak now or forever hold your peace in this regard, or at least till the end of housekeeping. Go ahead, Neil.
I will speak. I just want to say it's funny how you say formerly known as when they said nobody says the horizon is Earth curve.
Yeah, the horizon is not Earth curve. We only have one horizon, and the horizon in the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator is a physical geometric sphere edge marked with an X and labelled Earth curve. That's what it is. It's an Earth curve calculator. But that's not the horizon.
Well,
That only exists in the maths. We don't have a geometric horizon. Go ahead, Brian.
yeah, well, I mean, their only claim is that something that is already officially admitted to being an optical effect, they're trying to claim that this optical effect, which is the horizon, is refracted. How can you refract something that's already an optical effect? You know, it's like saying the Coriolis effect is refracted. It's like zero logic went into that claim.
Well, the claim itself will require an R value that they don't have, because when a ball-believing idiot says that there's refraction, their refraction is based on a radius value.
Hello, guys.
Hello, good to have you. Arwin, subscribe today.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian.
Okay.
That's-
Any more on Earth curve?
It exists in the math alone.
Perfect way to round out that part of housekeeping. Thank you, Owen. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve, going once, going twice? Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Wouldn't expect
Gonna
to
need half of
see
that.
any deviation.
You're going to need half of that. You will need half of that. Go on, Owen.
I was just saying we wouldn't expect to see any deviation.
Yeah, we would. If you're living on a sphere, you have a fundamental belief in the premise that Earth will demonstrate a drift. That drift is a not actual deflection at a rate of 15 degrees an hour caused by you turning underneath things that aren't attached to a sphere Earth. That is the premise that is asserted by our globe-believing idiots, and that is something that we do not see. So as an anti-flat Earth idiot, you would then assert to me, having pointed out that we don't observe this 15 degrees an hour drift that is claimed by a spinning Earth, that we wouldn't expect to see the 15 degrees an hour drift claimed by a spinning Earth. That's what I would be told by an anti-flat earther. In other words, deny the claim in the first instance when it's proven to not be true. Any more?
That claim... Yeah,
Brian,
I have something to
it's
say.
your pet project, pet subject rather. Go ahead.
Well, yes and no. It's like there's two problems with that claim. Number one is we're expected to believe that logically what should happen doesn't happen, and that's the way it should happen. You know, we're expected to believe that we shouldn't see drift in a situation where we couldn't but not see drift. You know, that's, you know, that it's ridiculous. And we're also expected to believe that what we experience, this is a funny thing actually, it's because another contradiction in a way from their side. We're also expected to believe that what we experience is not what we're really experiencing. You know, we experience the stationary Earth. That's our experience. But what we're really experiencing is a rotating Earth. So we, you know, where do you go with that?
Well, you point out that all they're doing is demanding that you beg the question of a sphere Earth that's turning with absolutely no observable or measurable effect to demonstrate to prove it. So, in other words, so we're not going to see Coriolis effect. There's going to be no effect to see, but I need to assume that we're still turning. So let's just beg the question, in spite of there being a claim from the globe that we'll see Coriolis effect, that we don't see. So just assume that we're spinning and ignore the fact we don't see Coriolis effect. That's what you're saying, Brian. The natural consequence of a globe Earth that turns is the very claim they make. That would be to say that if we had a turning Earth, there can't not be Coriolis effect. That's a natural effect that's going to be induced by virtue of you turning underneath things that aren't attached to you on a turning reference frame. That's what would happen, and that's what they claim we'll see. So we go, it's claimed to happen, we're claimed to have it in effect, we're claimed to be able to see it, we have examples of Neil deGrasse Tyson telling us how we'll see it, we have you on the globe side showing us claims that it will occur for snipers. That's not actual deflection from a bullet leaving a gun and then Earth turning beneath the bullet. That's the claim. But when you go, hold on, that will affect flight times. A flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles will only take an hour and a half if Earth's turning beneath it. And that is how you induce the effect of observing it seem to drift from the ground. That's Coriolis drift. So for us to see the plane seem to curve from the ground, we've got to turn beneath it. And if we're turning beneath it, we're turning beneath it, and that's going to shorten its flight times, and that doesn't happen. Rebuttal from anti-flat earther, we wouldn't expect to see the drift that the globe claimed we'd see at 15 degrees an hour, Brian.
Yeah, you go out when I got it.
Okay, I was kind of going to make a bit of a ballwind move, but I think you might find this interesting. Right, so if gas would go down, go boom, boom, because it had mass and it could be pulled to the ball Earth because of gravity, well, if you just thought that was true, that it did have mass, well, then it would also, because of that, have some form of susceptibility to momentum. It would actually be able to spin lockstep with the Earth.
Hold on, you didn't give
Under
enough...
those conditions, wouldn't it?
Stop. You didn't give enough disclaimers, right? When Brian covers this on his videos, kudos, by the way, for your recent videos, Brian. Subscribe today to Brian's Logic and check out his videos in terms of gas having mass. He qualifies what they say mass is in terms of the context of the inertia. You're not doing that. So you're not qualifying what mass is in this context, in their paradigm or at all, for this to make sense.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not nitpicking you. I'm more commending Brian because it requires a lot of disclaiming. And I'm not saying you're not capable of doing that, but Brian has just done that in his recent videos. So with all due respect, I'm hoping you'll now, kind of open the way to Brian, if that's good by you.
But it's just that, hey, if they believe that gas functions that way, which it doesn't, by the way, but if it would, well, then maybe from that same perspective, the argument that it would move lockstep with the rotation of the Earth wouldn't be that far-fetched. Now, of course, gas doesn't actually behave that way, and because of that, it is completely impossible. But if it would have, and gravity would have been pulling it down to ball Earth, then it would also be able to move lockstep with the spin.
No, it wouldn't. Only if it was in containment. No. So you're describing containment as gravity in this description. And no, gravity isn't a container. For you to have it to move as you describe in lockstep, it doesn't require that it goes down, go boom, boom. It requires that it's all contained.
I know. It wasn't.
I tried to plead with him, Brian. I know you're chomping at the bit. I know. What do you want me to do, Brian? What do you want?
I know. Well, look, it's like this. It's very simple. To kill all that, for a start, mass is still not clearly defined. I just gave a history of a changing definition to mass with the changing of their description of gravity, and just basically a changing of their model, basically. Objects weigh more in a vacuum, so we know for definite that air does not have a downward vector, right? There is no downward vector, singular downward vector air. That is complete nonsense. It's not gas behavior. Even within the claim that gravity would give weight to air, which is completely rubbish, that wouldn't stop the flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles having a shorter flight time, simply because the plane is flying through air. It's not flying with air, it's flying through air. So that wouldn't change that at all. The mass changed from the term mass used to be something that was weightless, and it was given before 1915. It was given a weight via a force of gravity. After 1915, because the force of gravity was thrown out the window by Albert Einstein, it just became known as a quantitative measure of inertia. But for what is inertia? It's a resistance to acceleration. What does gas always do? It's constantly accelerating. So it's not resisting accelerating. So something flying through air would be resisting the acceleration of the air. Not air. Air is not resisting acceleration. It can't do. That's exactly, it only accelerates. That's all it does. Air constantly accelerates with changing temperatures. But that's what it does. So every single thing, right, including a drop of water, falls through air. But helium balloons don't. They go up. Steam goes up. So the only things that can be weighed are things that will fall through air. So things have to have a singular downward vector to be weighed. And someone said to me in the comments on my video, an object in free fall has no weight. It's like, that's not true. If it's free falling, it means it has weight. Gas does not fall. So there's nowhere for that argument to go.
Perfect. Good summary. And again, I'll advise the audience, subscribe today. Brian's Logic is the name of the YouTube channel. And Brian's got a very no-nonsense videography technique. In other words, he's straight down to business, talking about what's being talked about in as concise a manner as he can. No frills, no nonsense, just info, well-researched, nice and concise. Check out Brian's Logic's channel. Subscribe today. I'm going to blow my own trumpet as we're in the middle of getting people to subscribe places.
Thank you.
No worries. Subscribe here. I have actually recently, even though a couple of days ago without updated stats. I said, oh, we don't get very many new people here. Well, actually, we do at the moment, for whatever reason. There's quite a few new people that are mustering by this show. Wonderful news. The audience figures seem to have gone up as well, which I'm very delighted about. But if you aren't already subscribed to Nathan Oakley, I know I say it in the intro, or Nathan Oakley 1980 YouTube channels, then subscribe today, as we are very much at the tip of the spear. I do not mind blowing our own trumpet when it comes to flat Earth information. We are on the cutting edge of that particular subject matter, so there is no reason why you shouldn't be subscribed if you're here. But if you're not, subscribe today. Moving on with housekeeping. Any evidence?
Can I say something first?
You can. Go ahead, Neil.
Brian, that was outstanding.
Brian's on fire at the moment. There's no two ways about it. Arwin, on the other hand, I'm only joking. He's just antagonist. He knows where to push my buttons, and I watch the chat go by when a Sleeping Warrior saying, "Look, Arwin, gravity's not a container," and Arwin's putting laughy cry face. Yeah, I know. Yeah, thanks, Arwin, bastard.
Yeah, but my statement was still correct, though, technically, because if
For what they believe,
gas
yes, it was.
Yeah,
if they believe that, yeah.
I'm just trying to highlight the psychological perspective as to how they would come to that conclusion and not find an objection. It's not because they're looking from the perspective of actually physically proven physics out there.
No, I totally appreciate that, and I commend you. You even disclaimed saying you're going to play a bit of Baldwin, and you did. But ultimately speaking, what you're doing is saying if their belief in gas go down, go boom, boom, and gravity as a container holds true, then they've got a world without problems. Well, yeah, okay. If you've got a fundamentalist religious belief in a sphere Earth, in a sky vacuum, and you don't mind violations of natural law, then you've got no problems also, Arwin. Any evidence that we can have gas pressure without a container, though?
Just before we go off of that, Nathan, just one thing. Yeah, you have to pay attention to what I said, though, Arwin. Even if all that, what the borders claim is true, the airplane is still flying through the air. So it still would have a shorter flight time east to west than west to east. But that doesn't happen.
No, you misunderstand the entire premise of what I was laying down. No, I was arguing why on the ball mechanics world that's disproven, but if it wasn't disproven, if it did work like that, then there would be no rotation. There would be rotation. The gas would literally rotate. It would
no
have
effect.
momentum.
You're saying, yeah, let me just hold on, stop. So there's no confusion. Stop. Hello. No, just so there's not confusion for Brian. You're saying there'd be no effect, Brian, if what they said held true with gravity as a container, gas going down, go boom, boom because of weight. He's saying that if in their fundamentalist religious belief, he also peppered it with, if your annihilation of this horse shit didn't stand true, Arwin just didn't say it that way. In other words, if all of the things that you've just said didn't matter, and I still held on to my... He's just chanting. I mean, he's got to take... He knows he's irritating me. That's probably why he's doing it.
I'm just pointing out that it doesn't matter, because if the plane had to move with the air, then the plane could never go forward. The plane has to fly through the air, regardless. So flight times would still have to be an hour and a half from North Carolina to Los Angeles.
Correct. And what Brian's summarising, Owen, before you jump in and be Baldwin for the next 25 minutes, is that this ends up in a ball-believing idiot asserting that planes have to fly backwards after they take off. And QE has beautifully led several fundamentalist religious zealots in this regard to actually disclaim, oh, well, yes, it's actually going backwards with respect to the Earth that's turning without any effect that I've now negated and introduced in a small degree because of latitude-based claims of conservation of angular momentum. Correct, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, but flying backwards means it can't go forward, so it can't go to its destination. If you're a pilot and your destination is Los Angeles and you're leaving North Carolina, how are you going to get there if you have to move with the air that's moving with a globe Earth?
It's very simple.
You can't.
You gotta listen. He said it.
Yeah, you can.
Through the air.
In my conception, which is not reality, yeah, you can, and I explained why.
Okay. I don't want to hear the explanation of Arwin's Baldwin reality where he puts himself in the mindset of a baller to give us this convoluted nonsense explanation. In reality, yeah, Brian, you're absolutely correct. And to draw a line into this while Arwin rumpuses the living hell out of me, I'm going to say No, because this entire argument is hinged on their claim that we'll have Coriolis deflection. So as clever as Arwin thinks he's being to try and get into the convoluted gaggle screw of whether or not we will see drift in an aeroplane, this effect that's claimed by Globe Earth is only observable from the ground. So when you veer off into detailing what's going to happen to the flight, you end up losing track of the actual original claim made by Globe Earth. The Globe Earth claims we will have Coriolis deflection. That is only observable as you turn beneath. And Baldwin is successful, if I don't interrupt him at this stage, in getting us away from the effect that the Globe Earth claims that we're debunking, that would be Coriolis deflection, observable as you turn beneath things on a spinning Earth, versus what the bloody plane's doing. Now, QE will detail with disclaimers that when you're arguing this with a baller, the effect we're arguing is Coriolis when you establish what causes that effect that the globe claims. And what causes that effect is Earth turning beneath things that aren't attached. Now, once you've established that that is the effect that Globe Earth are claiming, you as the Flat Earther may point out the consequences of that effect, observed as you turn beneath things, watching them seem to drift. Well, watching a plane seem to drift would shorten its flight time. Now, you can do that as a Flat Earther, but Baldwin can't do that as a globe-believing proponent because your effect is only arguable from the ground. My demolishment of your effect and the natural consequences by pointing out the flight won't mean that you can suddenly start arguing from the standpoint of the flight. You have no reason to give me trajectories of planes and details in terms of why flights would or wouldn't be shortened, because your effect is only observable from the ground. And my annihilation is usually taken, like Baldwin's done, to spin it away from the effect that's actually being claimed, because that isn't observed.
Could I point something out too?
Straw man of my conception, which started with an immediate interruption before I could even explain what I was talking about.
So now the tactic is moan about the process that's taken place when I've cut Arwin's legs off, because the Globe Earth claim, and he's declared that he's going to be Baldwin, is going to start by detailing how we should or shouldn't have shortened flight times. Now that's the end of the argument, not the intermediate part of the argument that an argument from a ball point of view is going to start. You can't start it from that point of view, because the ball starts from the point of view of the observation of Coriolis deflection, only capable from the ground.
This is all still begging the question, though, because if you allow them a non-inertial turning reference frame, you're begging the question of a radius at that point.
But at which point there's an effect, a natural consequence, where we're going to see things drifting because we're turning beneath them. So in other words, to annihilate the claim, the natural consequences of the claim that we don't observe have to be pointed out. Now, they'll then take that to mean, well, I'm going to point out your concise summary of what the Globe Earth claims and spin that into your Flat Earth claim. So you're saying we should see drift, Mr. Flat Earther. That's what they'll do.
Right, but at that point, you should point out that the Earth doesn't have a radius. There would be no Coriolis effect on Earth.
Right, so thank you. You've drawn a concise close to this. Yeah, I'll always thank you for this, John, because it was you that first pointed out that you can draw any Coriolis argument conversation to a very swift close by asking for the R value, for their radian value, to give them their turn rate, right?
Right. Once the radius was debunked, they have nothing. They don't have Coriolis. They don't have anything.
Could I just say one last thing on it?
Yeah.
I think, I'm not saying it's falling on deaf ears, but I think it's not getting the attention it should get. Even within their claim, for a plane to fly from North Carolina to Los Angeles, it has to fly east to west. So that means it has to fly through the air. So the air moving in lockstep, which is crazy nonsense, with a rotating globe Earth, wouldn't change the fact that that airplane still has to fly against the rotation. Because if the airplane has to move with the air that's with it moving in lockstep with a rotating Earth, then that airplane could never leave its position. It has to still fly through the air. So their whole claim is destroyed even within the added nonsense they put into it. Even when they try and add in nonsense like lockstep there,
Right, I was going to say, you said
Isn't
as part of their claim, it isn't. So you're saying as part of the nonsense they strap on after they've been debunked. After you point out there's no drift to observe, they then strap on this nonsense of a turning Earth without containment that's got Earth and atmosphere moving in lockstep. Well, all of those assumptions, sphere-shaped air, R-value, as John's just pointed out, are all debunked. But it isn't their paradigm. It isn't their claim. It is just nonsense anti-flat Earth to strap on after they've been debunked. But you're saying even within the anti-flat Earth nonsense that's strapped onto a debunked claim of Coriolis effect that we don't see, I can still debunk it, because if that happened when flying west, they're still working their way against the air that's moving in lockstep, which is going to have some consequences also. But ultimately, while I agree with you taking the effort to go to the degree you have and debunk the anti-flat Earth claim, it is not the globe claim.
No, it's not. But the fundamentals of it is that you will still see the Coriolis effect in those circumstances, because you have to be able to see the plane flying against the rotation of their globe, even with lockstep air, simply because it has to go east to west to go to where it needs to go. So no matter what, you're going to see drift.
Agreed. In the anti-flat Earth paradigm, that does unbelievably demolish their non-claim that the globe Earth has to get around when we debunk it. I'll agree. You know, you've worked this through based on what they're claiming, but they are the minority of minorities, and in many ways that's what they're here for, right? To occupy our time debunking the strap-on, end of claim, mashed together nonsense that comes after their claim fails. So yeah, okay, it's good that you're going to that degree, because otherwise they'd just claim that that's the thing that undoes it. And somebody who doesn't look into the original claim, which most people won't, they'll just hear an anti-flat earther when they look up, oh, all right, somebody's saying it's debunked. And then they go to the anti-flat earther who says, why would the flat earther say we were expecting to see drift? And the audience member doesn't go, well, because Earth says we've got 15 degrees drift. That's Coriolis. That's what they say we've got. They're just going to say, yeah, why would the flat earther? Good question, Mr. Confidence Trickster. That's all they're going to do. So yes, you've got to debunk it and point out that A, that doesn't work either, and B, it's not that you claim on a globe Earth, your claim's drift that we don't see. You explaining away why we don't see it's not going to wash. But nice try, and here's how what you've tried also fails.
May I give a response that will maybe help people understand why they shouldn't go down this road of arguing Coriolis?
Because they haven't got R. Go ahead. No, that's not, I'm just being facetious.
If you continue arguing Coriolis with them, all they have to do is take the position that I don't know why the Earth doesn't do that as a non-inertial turning reference frame, but it's still a non-inertial turning reference frame.
Yeah, no matter what you show them happening or not happening, they're always going to take it to, I'm going to explain why whatever you've got an objection with occurs or doesn't occur, while still assuming I've got a turning Earth beneath my feet, regardless of whether it does or doesn't yield any effect to show you. I'm still going to assume Earth's turning. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, they don't really care. As long as Earth is turning in the example, they're happy. Because they have their radian values that they can assume. And if you're assuming it with them, they're tickled to death because you're halfway there.
Right. Yeah, it's a tightrope that you have, or that I at least have to try and negotiate when I'm detailing the effect that they're claiming and giving a multitude of disclaimers to say I'm now detailing the non-inertial turning reference frame of a roundabout with a balloon being let go from it and you observing it corkscrew away because you're turning beneath it. There's no reference to a turning Earth at that point. And I catch them out because I'm well versed in doing it after a couple of years now, where when they start detailing how we won't expect to see drift, I just immediately transpose on the roundabout example. Oh, so we're not expecting to see drift as we turn beneath things on a roundabout? Oh, no, only on Earth. Oh, right, so no Coriolis effect on Earth then, and so it goes on.
Yeah, that's
Wouldn't
about
the
the only
plane have
way.
to travel faster than 1,000 miles an hour?
Say that again.
See that?
Just one second, John. Just 1 sec, John. Say that again, whoever that was.
Wouldn't the plane have to travel faster than 1,000 miles an hour to beat the Coriolis?
Yeah, that's where you end up with them saying that the flight initially, it's, at least in some instances I've heard it initially or just outright, flying backwards when it first leaves the ground. That's the kind of nonsense level that they can get taken to by somebody who's well versed in this argument, like Quantum Eraser.
No, no, the plane would fly through the air to get from point A to point B. And if it's flying against the rotation of the Earth, you will see, of a globe Earth, you will see the Coriolis effect, even within that plane.
Okay, fun though this is.
It has to get there.
Let's move on from Coriolis effect.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian. Round out your point if you've got one.
I'm just saying it has to get there. Otherwise, what's the point of planes?
Okay, just to summarise, from the ground, you're supposed to see the plane seem to drift. That would be not actually drifting, travelling in a straight line, but because you're turning beneath it on a claim to be spinning Earth, it looks like it's curving. That's the claim. That's Coriolis effect. That's what we're supposed to see. And if we see that, it means we're turning beneath aeroplanes. And if we're turning beneath aeroplanes, their flight times would be reduced, and they're not. So we're not turning beneath aeroplanes to see them seem to drift. That's the globe Earth claim. It has been debunked. All the rest of everything, almost everything we've discussed here, is periphery that comes after the fact. We point out we haven't got any drift to see. They tell us we wouldn't expect to see it, in spite of the fact it being their claimed proof of a spinning Earth. Well, that claim of a spinning proof that we've got Earth turning, well, that comes with Coriolis effect. And it's the very thing that the mainstream will say proves we're spinning. Coriolis effect is the claim proof we spin. We just don't see it, and when we point that out, we're told we're not expecting to see it. That's how it goes. That's how it rolls on Flat Earth Debate. That's how it's been for a long time. Let's move on. Unless anybody's desperate to get something in on top of the summary.
Yeah, I'm desperate.
Oh, go on then.
It's the point Brian is making is so simple. If you're going to go visit a relative in the States and you're in California and you want to go to Boston, and you book a flight on the plane, you expect to get there. But if at the same time you're a baller and you're saying the Earth is turning underneath the airplane, well, then you're bringing into that flight some dynamics, especially on the return trip back, because now the Earth is turning towards you, west to east, and you're flying east to west. It's to shorten your flight time, but it doesn't happen. It's that simple. It's that clear.
Perfect.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Back.
Perfect.
How
Perfect
do you
summary.
get there in the first place?
Indeed.
You get back. You can't even get there in the first place, man.
No, you can't get there in the first place because the plane's top speed is 500, 600 miles an hour, and the Earth's turning 850 at that latitude.
Okay, I know I said we should repeat things multiple times, but we are in danger of labouring this point now.
I do want to say one more time that you can't enter into the Coriolis argument without begging the question of a radius.
Definitely going to be where I round out for the next question, because that is actually the nail in the coffin, end of that conclusion, end of the summary, because that is what they need. You're going to need R for that Coriolis deflection, because you've got to have a rotation rate, and it's based on R. Without it, you've got absolutely diddly squat. So you're going to need R. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
Even if there was a radius, that wouldn't be possible.
All right, we got some new folks in Discord.
Yeah, they were,
Hold on, just give Righteous the mic a sec. Go ahead, Righteous. What did you say?
We got Anthony and K Mooney or something.
Don't be shy.
Yeah, K Money, but he left.
Don't be shy. Feel free to join in with the housekeeping questions, whoever you may be.
Yeah, K Money was muted. He was trying to speak, but he was muted. So
we had some globers last night describing that the greenhouse gases behave like a greenhouse, like a physical building that contains. So they said it's easy. It's just the greenhouse gases which hold the pressure in.
And what holds in the greenhouse gases?
Was my question.
No, but seriously, what holds in the greenhouse gases?
The name greenhouse. The word greenhouse implies like a physical structure. So you just put greenhouse in front of gas and it doesn't behave like gas.
Oh, I see. No, I've got a better explanation, ballers. Yeah, you can take this. Write this down. Ballers, get a pen. Right? What you can answer that question with when someone like me says, well, what's containing the greenhouse gases? Write this down. The container gases. Yeah, that'll work in the same exact way. Just say, that would be the container gases that we've got. Those magical container gases that are gases that act like containers, like solid structures all joined together with intermolecular bonds. Yeah, well, they can just be the same as the gases that have no bonds and contain stuff. Just say the container gases, right? Greenhouse gases, container gases, you know what I'm talking about. No, that's violations of natural law, because you're going to need a container for that.
I actually own 6 greenhouses.
Well said.
And I actually own 6 greenhouses, and when you walk in there, it is hot. Unless you open the doors and roll up the sides and allow the gases to escape.
What, you know,
without a physical barrier?
No, you allow the container.
Greenhouses.
Go on, Chocolate, sorry.
Are you saying your greenhouses contain?
Yeah, that's why it's hot in there. The gases in there, the gases in the greenhouse are hot. But when I open up the sides and open up the door and allow some ventilation, it cools down because it meets the gases outside the greenhouse. But then how are the outside gases of the greenhouse contained?
I think what you did there was Chocolate was adding in the metaphorical or verbal equivalent of quantum erasers, car crash noise effects and gasps and babies crying, things like that. So when you got to the point that you described how it was containing, Chocolate was looking for that moment, that pause where he can go, oh, shit. Right, Chocolate?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, greenhouse has some of that too. That's how plants grow.
That's true. Look, we're not going to turn this into Quantum Eraser show from yesterday about toilets.
No, but it is a fertile subject.
My house is blue.
Profound. Thank you for that. My house is kind of creamy colour.
Yeah. Are you saying that temperature was created within a contained situation?
Yes.
That is exactly what he's saying, Brian. How did you pick up on that? Your subtlety don't get past you, does it, Brian?
No.
Well,
you're going to need a container.
Can we talk about... hold on. Can we talk about the gradiated temperature as it reaches equilibrium with the outside, and then justify that as why it doesn't need a container?
What? So, in other words, describe the process within the greenhouse, and then say, because we're describing it within the container, we can ignore the container and ask someone else to justify how you have a gradation within that container, ignoring the container. Is that what you're asking for?
Exactly. Perfect. Yes. Can we do that and just ignore the container?
No. In order to have the gas pressure and then an acquisition of the heat build-up, which is what we're describing in this instance, you're going to need a container for that.
Well, I guess there's an argument. Oh, I was just saying, I guess there's not really an argument then, is there?
No, you can't have gas pressure without a container. If the sky was a vacuum, as is asserted by fundamentalist, ball-believing globe idiots, let's just call them, then the gas we're breathing would fill that space.
Well, they like to point to the differential pressure at high altitude, because that's considered a vacuum when you have differential pressure. They like to point to that and say, well, if that was the case, then why isn't the pressure on Everest the same as it is on the ground? Wouldn't that be akin to saying, well, the greenhouse doesn't exist because the heat that's escaping isn't at the same temperature as that further into the building?
Yeah, in other words, where'd you get the gas pressure from in the first place to have a gradient to ask me why you've got a lower pressure up high near Everest? I would add to that, though, the gas itself, right, so you go to Everest, and I appreciate it's very thin air and you're better off with breathing equipment, but there are people who've gone up without it, right? People who've ascended to the top of Everest without any breathing equipment. In other words, there is a certain amount of gas up there. So where are these gases produced? They're produced down low, right, at the ground?
Yes.
So
yes,
they're asking you... So they're asking you about gases that have, correct me if I'm wrong, made their way up towards the top of Everest, right?
Well, that would be a violation of gravity. So no, they didn't make their way up.
Oh, but they're asking you about the gases that are definitely on top. This is their question about gases at the top of Everest and thin air higher up, right?
Well, yeah,
Violation of what?
So my point here is
things go down to boom boom.
Let's say they say it's 0.00001 psi for the sake of argument. Yeah, they say, oh, I don't know, 100 kilometers. It's what we all call a vacuum. And you go, so there's air pressure up high. Then you can qualify it in a very small quantity. Not the orders of magnitude claimed to be the 10 to minus 17 torr vacuum that the sky is claimed to be, outer space. But you can say, within our realms of understanding, there is a very, very, very low pressure, that would be gas, that's made its way up high. Right?
Just to qualify that, mate.
Yes.
It's 0.007 torr, so 7 to the minus 3 torr, so a low gas pressure, which is... What do they state the vacuum of space is? 10 to the minus 17?
Yes.
Massive difference.
What did you say?
Massive difference between that. A much bigger difference between that and the vacuum of space than what they're saying is at 100 miles compared to standard atmospheric pressure. And we're talking, what, 1, 2, 3...
14 or 15 orders of magnitude.
The difference,
more.
Yeah. So
it's
isn't
the difference is that when they're qualifying it at a low vacuum, I think they call it, well, you're still talking about a qualifiable, measurable amount of gas that's colliding with each other and the walls of its container.
Correct.
Yeah, gas at pressure. Yeah, number one, it's made its way up then. So it's not going down, go boom, boom, when you try and assert that the gas above it's pressing down, because it's gone up from ground level up to the top of Everest. And obviously, the more space you've got, the more you're going to dissipate. That's what gas does. But if it had infinite space at 10 to the minus 17 torr, then all of the gas that we have would all dissipate into that area, because we're a dot in a massive area of space. So all gas wants to do is expand in all directions to fill whatever volume it's got. And for us to have this gradient that we're being asked about, then we're going to need a container. Any more on?
Covered that pretty good.
I think so. That's
Maybe
what I'm
there's
asking.
not enough volume all the way up.
They're saying we don't.
This is a nonsense.
Hold on. Chaos, go ahead. Ask your question again.
I said maybe there's not enough volume to get all the way up there.
What do you mean get not enough volume? All gas does is expand in whatever direction it's expanding in, and then it does that until it collides with something.
Everest, there's not as much. So there's not enough volume of gas to go all the way up.
Nathan.
Sorry, I don't know what's being said. Can you clarify for me, Brian? I don't understand.
Yeah, he's talking about a differential in volume of gas. Let's just say at the differential in pressure at higher altitudes than at lower altitudes. If you research something called thermal columns and air boundary layers, you will see that you could, below 10 miles, there is at least 75% of all our air supply. But below the local boundary layers, which is between where the clouds form and the ground, there is about 75% again of that 75%, maybe even more.
I gotcha. So what you're saying is within the area where you have a phase change, in other words, it's not going to continue on in that direction in that vector because it's changing into a liquid, and then it's going to fall back down because of its density increase when it accumulates other particles that are condensing into the liquid. Therefore, at that point, what is below it is essentially being contained by something that does have intermolecular bonds at the point of phase change. And you're saying that's described as a boundary layer. Yeah, I can understand that in terms of the description of that dynamic system. I can also appreciate that if you're going to say there's a vast quantity of water in the air, which there is, then that is going to be contained within that density, within that area, between where it's phase change back to a more solid state, so it can collide with each other and then form more and more, bonds, and then fall back down with density as rain. Well, you can appreciate that that process is going to preclude whatever is above that layer being full of more water and more of the other gases that are between that and what is described as a boundary layer. But, big but, for that process to occur in the first instance, you know what you're going to need before any of that can take place, Brian?
The container.
Right. So fascinating though dynamic systems are, and boundary layers, if they're being described arbitrarily as that boundary by us in our verbalistic way of doing so, then that doesn't ultimately change the fact that to have gas pressure in the first place, to then have a delta of gas pressure, which would be a gas pressure gradient, and then a delta of the gas pressure gradient, which would be a dynamic system, still starts with the antecedent consequent relationship of containment and gas pressure. You still need a container for that.
Yeah, you see,
Very good. Thank you.
The thing about it is that at 10 miles up, the temperature is minus 51 degrees. So what you have above boundary layers, you'll notice that airplanes, commercial aircraft, will fly above the boundary layers. They fly in what they call the free air. They call it the free atmosphere, right? I understand that word is a bit tricky, but that's what they call it, the free atmosphere. And the reason is that there isn't the same density of air up there because it's a lot colder. And all the particulates and all these kind of aerosols and all that, they are caught at the boundary layer. And it's like a filter system where the air that gets through is cleaner. It's basically a cleaning system for the air. But there's a load more goes into it because you have three major convection cells, and every thermal column is also a convection column. The most amount of convection happens between the tropics, and then you have the convection that happens either side of the tropics, but from there up to close to the polar, Arctic regions, and then you have another convection cell at each Arctic region, and there isn't as much convection there, obviously, because of the cold. What controls the whole system, and everything is controlled by temperature. And the reason when you go up, let's say up to a point high in the sky, like 20 plus miles up, and you have 10 to the minus 2 torr or something like that pressure, is because there is just, even though there's a rising temperature after 10 miles, there just isn't enough air getting past the 10-mile part, right? Because you have another 20 miles above that, let's just say, right? There just isn't enough air getting past that point to create any major change, if you know what I mean. It's too cold, because even from 10 miles up to 20 plus miles up, it still only starts reaching zero. You're not going away. It's not till you go past 20 miles up, you start getting into the +4, +5 degrees. I don't know how hot it can get, but I have to go look back on my research, because there's certain things I know I'm forgetting now as to why the air can't get to there. So there's all actual proper reasons why the air is not getting there, and none of them are gravity. So all completely different things. Mainly temperature is the main problem, but you also have the fact that we have the oxygen and nitrogen cycles. Oxygen and nitrogen is said to take up like 95 or 99% of all our air supply, and they're constantly recycling with the ground, constantly, every day, all day, day in, day out. You know, nitrogen is used by plant life, everything. So it's designed so all the air stays down here. Because if it didn't, we wouldn't be able to be here. We wouldn't live.
That is a really eloquent answer, but the whole gas pressure gradient argument is a red herring, is it not?
Yes, it's appealing to delta X when they first haven't explained how they get X, which is the gas pressure in the first place. You can't appeal to a gas pressure gradient. That's delta X, because to have a gas pressure gradient, you've first got to have gas pressure. That requires containment. It's an antecedent consequent relationship that you can't get around by appealing to something that's a delta of the question being asked. That question being, how can you have gas pressure without a container? And the answer is, you can't.
Can I add something?
Feel free.
Okay, I think I'm getting an echo. Okay, no echo. So we got the reason for the density layers. We got like 3 reasons here. One is, produced at ground level. Another is relative density. And another one is temperature. So
Yeah.
isn't it supposed to be like, how do I put it? That's like 3 causes, right?
No, it's not 3 causes, it's 3 descriptions.
3 descriptions?
You're talking about entropic effects. So when you say causes, well, no. Why does hot go to cold? Why does high pressure go to low pressure? That would be the cause of it. Well, you're not going to ascertain that. All we're doing is describing what actually occurs. And the description isn't a cause. So no.
Okay, well, let's simplify it. Just between relative density and the ground level part, right?
Ground level part, what do you mean?
So if it's relative density, then we wouldn't need the explanation of it being produced at ground level, right? Because it would be the reason why we have the gradient is because of relative density, right?
I'm not following where you're going with this, but carry on.
Well, how do I put it?
Does that mean you don't know where
they're
you're going
asking-
with this?
Well, I'm seeing like it's conflicting a little bit. It seems like there's like, yeah, I guess I'm not sure where I'm going. I was just asking you.
Okay, I think I figured it out. Well, I think your confusion comes from when you say relative density. That is just a second order effect of entropy to begin with. So when you say high pressure to low pressure, well, when you've got a gas produced at the ground, it's going to be under the highest of the pressure that it's going to ever experience as it's pumped out of the ground, right? That's what's going to occur. You're going to have it in its highest concentration. Those are the words I'm looking for. Yeah, as it changes phase from, say, water to liquid gas or to water vapor, you're going to have the highest concentration of that water vapor where it's being created. So therefore, the entropic effect is dispersion. Yeah? Well, you're saying, well, with relative density, well, no, you're just describing how something is dispersing into an already in existence gas pressure.
Well, let me put it to you this way. If we get rid of gases produced at ground level, there would still be that layering effect happening.
Saying if all the gases
density,
reduced,
right?
if all the gases were produced and there was nothing to cause any sort of change in it, there's no sun, for instance, then you're saying it would just layer, or what are you suggesting?
If it wasn't produced at ground level, I still say it would layer due to denser gas and less denser gas. Correct?
No, it wouldn't. The reason it wouldn't is because eventually all of the gases, which have got gaps between them, are going to just... There's no reason why they're going to clump together, unless Adam's going to give me a different description. They've all got
So you're
gaps.
saying that
Nothing's bonded.
So you're saying the density effect of gases would not matter anymore. They would all just be equally distributed in the atmosphere if it wasn't.
Oh, what do you mean? Hold on. What do you mean the density of the gas? What do you mean?
Can I answer?
Well, there's different densities to gases, no? There's like different gases, or did I say different gases? Yeah, there's
but
density
they're all
layers to
mixed up.
gases.
Hold on. Let Raj just get to the end of his point.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I'm just saying that there's density layers to gases, right? There's more dense gas and less dense gas.
No. Yes, there are more dense gases. If you want to describe something as having a higher... I can't remember the words I'm looking for, like a molecular density. Is that the correct terminology, Adam?
Well, one mole of gas will, I think it's 22.4 deciliters at RTP.
Speak up, sorry, a bit quiet.
One mole will occupy a set volume, 22.4, I remember. So you're going to... No, not really, is the simple answer. We don't describe it in terms of density, because there is no density. The density is defined by the volume, the pressure.
What he's
All
asking...
right, but remember...
okay, hold on, Righteous. What Righteous is asking, Adam, is if all things are equal and there's no entropic enhancement from a sun, for instance, if you've got 3 different gases in a container at equilibrium, will they form layers? That's what he's essentially asking from what I can ascertain.
Not if they're exhibiting gas behavior, because by the definition of gas behavior, they can't form layers.
Right. They're just going to mix together.
Wait, let me continue with this.
You can, but I can give you a qualifier in terms of how we experience gas generally, which is to say that the mixture, right? Let's say you've got a swamp and it's giving off a certain gas, and you look at it and you can almost see it hanging in the air, right? And you go, oh, look, there's a high concentration of X gas. Okay, fine. Over time, entropy, dispersion, it's going to fill the volume. Well, what you end up with is the same mixture at any point. Now, yeah, it can spread out more. You can have it less. It can be thinner, if you want to use that sort of terminology. But the actual mixture that you get at the top of Everest isn't any different to what you get down here. There's just less of it because it's all mixed up, right?
If you think of the
let me continue.
Sulfur hexafluoride example, where they bring it in, and it's there for a short amount of time, separated, isn't it? Because it's denser ones. It's only separated because you've poured it into there. Give it a little bit of time, and seal the room, the doors on the room, so we've still got one fixed container. All that sulfur hexafluoride will dissipate into the rest of the fixed volume, and it'll have a concentration density for within that mixture of air, the amount you put in, but it'll be pretty much mixed with everything else. It won't have gone and sat on its own somewhere. Like when you first start, the net effect of the entropy is it dissipates evenly, doesn't it? Due to random collisions.
Right, like dropping a drop of ink into some water, you just over time see it distribute throughout the water evenly with enough time. That's probably not a great example, but I'm just trying to give you some visuals to compare it to.
Yeah.
I got an experiment.
Well, go on. Sorry, Rich.
Is that an experiment? No.
No, I said I got an experiment.
Oh,
Good Times
God.
for All did it.
What's the actual phenomena?
Boy.
Hold on. Let Righteous go. Go ahead, Righteous.
Well, you know what? It's just manipulating something, right? Good Times for All manipulated the temperature in a contained container, and as he manipulated the temperature, he measured two different pressures at each end.
That's not what we did.
So when we manipulate the temperature of gases, that manipulates their density, right? And as a result, no,
it manipulates the pressure. You energize the particle. So what we did when we set that up, we had one end of the tank in ice, so they were trying to create a very low local pressure there, and one end being heated with a blowtorch, so that the local effects at one end and the other would demonstrate slight pressure differences. Okay, and the way in which we're changing the pressure is locally taking away heat, which is what we did. So at one end we're heating it up. Now that pressure, if we leave it for a second and stop the dynamic import, the pressure will equalize again. But we kept the blowtorch on and we kept it in the ice, trying to keep these two things. But the whole entropy system, the entropy is still trying to play out and equalize and equalize and equalize. But we keep putting in and taking energy out one end and keep messing about with it. That's going to have a local effect where you're doing that energy exchange. Yeah. But the whole system inside is fighting hard to get back to equilibrium. It can't deny the effect you're having, but we're not. So what we're doing there is changing the local pressure. Yeah.
So pressure is tied to density, right?
No. What density? Density of what?
If I compress a gas, is it not more dense?
No, there's higher pressure. That's Boyle's law.
Okay.
QE always said, and I never understood why, but it makes sense. Don't describe gases in terms of that. Yeah, it's not. You can't describe it like that. You need to quantify, the pressure and the volume, and you've got an amount.
Let me get this straight. So if I compress molecules together, they're not more dense?
No, there's no density there. They're moving. They've got less space to move in.
I have to disagree.
And therefore they will generate a bigger pressure. But to try and conflate the term dense
is kind of a misnomer because you're taking away the understanding from the solid and liquid and trying to use that word in a you can use it if you really want to consider it as density, even though they're all moving constantly. Yeah, there isn't a fixed density in there, really, is there? It's fluid. It's moving all the time.
It's varying
Yeah, so-
at all different points. It's not some fixed measure that you can get.
All right.
That's not how gas is or can be qualified.
Okay,
You
let me
could
go with
say
this.
there's X number of molecules per centimeter cubed and describe it like that, but that's not the convention we use for gases because it is complicated. If gases are very different, their behavior is different. So we have to determine it in terms of volume and pressure. Then we know how much is in there, and that's kind of what density is telling you in relation to solids, isn't it?
All right, but let me just lead you guys so I can get an understanding on this. All right, if there's more compressed gas, right, and there's less compressed gas, will not the less compressed gas be pushed up or away from the more compressed gas?
Yeah, that's entropy. High pressure to low pressure? Dispersion? That's what you're describing. You're just describing the natural effect that gas will undergo when you experience an entropy increase or witness an entropy increase.
Okay, so lower pressure to higher pressure. Okay, right.
No, higher pressure to lower pressure.
All right.
But in terms of the molecules,
Hold on. I just want to make sure you understand this fundamental premise. You understand that you fill a balloon, you blow it up, it's then above the pressure in the room, but when you pop it, you're witnessing an entropy increase. The high pressure in the balloon returning to the equilibrium that it once came. That is high pressure to low pressure. You can hear it when it goes bang.
Okay.
That's just the natural way gas behaves. That's what we're trying to get across. So we started this conversation with you trying to ascribe cause to this, and that's never going to happen. All I can describe is the increase in entropy. Now, the description is incredibly eloquent, but it doesn't give you any causal attributions to it. It just is what it is. You're just describing what happens always. That's why they call them natural laws. You're just describing what happens always.
So why do we term a more dense gas and less dense gas? Why not like more high pressure gas and low pressure gas then?
Can I give some?
We'll get to that in the after show. Righteous. Go ahead, Brian, and then I'll say hello to Sleeping Warrior. Then I'll ask everyone to stay tuned. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get in.
Okay, Eli, I was here just prior to you try to get in. Just give me a minute. What we have, right, as Adam said, you can take a cubic inch of gas, of one gas like CO2, right, and a cubic inch of helium, and the CO2 will be more dense within that cubic inch, but it will still constantly be moving in all vectors. It won't be stationary at any time, but you will have a situation. That's why CO2 does, and carbon dioxide and I think carbon monoxide and that, it will stay close to the ground without the influence of weather, which is changes in temperature and pressure. Weather mixes up all the gases. That's why air is a mixture of everything.
Hold on. Let me get this straight, Brian. Hold on. Let me just get your claim straight. In a sealed container, you think you release CO2 into it and it just stays at the bottom, correct?
If you hang on, no, let me finish. Right, CO2, right, will in a concentrated form. When it comes out of the ground in a concentrated form, it will displace the air around it, but it will disperse and integrate with the air due to the weather, right? How gases work. Hold
on. Stop. Keep the live show open for this. Yeah, I heard that the first time. Therefore, qualify what I mean. Put it in a sealed chamber to remove all aspects of weather. Ergo, your claim, without the weather, you'd have a layer of CO2 on the bottom of the chamber if it was introduced. You pump it in from the bottom, out of the ground, and you're saying you'll have a layer of it at the bottom. That's what you're saying, right?
If you put CO2 into a sealed container. I see there's a load of factors to this, Nathan.
You just need a yes or no. What? Hold on. Weasel.
Give me a second. No, because it's not just, no, because you're looking for me to commit to something that involves more than...
No, I'm not. Hold on. No, I'm not. I'm asking you to... Hold on, Brian, just one sec. What I'm asking you to do is affirm your position that you've just claimed. But for the weather, it wouldn't disperse. That's your claim. I'm getting you to affirm that with an example in the positive of a situation where we remove your but for the weather part, and then we're left with what I've described, and you haven't affirmed it. So when I say weasel.
I'm trying to. If you put CO2 into a sealed container and you add in helium on top of that CO2, right? What's going to happen?
The gases will mix together with entropy. You'll have an entropy increase. They'll all mix together.
Yeah, but why? Hang on. Entropy. What's entropy?
Gas filling together. The gas mixing together.
Entropy.
It's just mixing together.
Is part of entropy.
Yeah, it's just.
Convection is part of. Hang on. You're looking for me to commit to something, and I am going to commit to it, right? There's one thing I am going to commit to, and that is structural support. The reason that... Hang on. No, nobody has been able to disprove this, and they won't.
I can. Right? I can debunk it in a heartbeat. You having me on? Nobody can debunk it.
If you want, I'll just go on mute. Either you leave me finish, or I just go on mute. I don't mind if you listen or don't listen. So up to yourselves. I'm not trying to force it on you.
Okay.
The reason why, when you put CO2, the reason why CO2 is able to displace air in the first place is because it's more dense, right? So it has more structural support than the air. That's why the likes of a man-made gas like sulfur hexafluoride, you can float a tinfoil boat on it. Why can you do that? Because it has enough structural support for the tinfoil boat. Now, in our world, which is a dynamic system, everything will eventually mix together. But if you put CO2 and helium into a sealed container, right, and you keep them at a constant temperature, right, for a while, they won't mix. They will probably eventually mix, but for a while, they won't mix. And I haven't ever done it, so I can't say for definite.
Well, hold on. Probably will eventually. I'm afraid not. That's a law of nature. They will.
Well, what? Yeah, okay. Gas, right? What moves gas around? What moves out of the air?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. You're taking this too.
That's why we have the mixing up of all the gases.
Okay, thank you. You asked a question. Well, you're asking for the cause of entropy, aren't you? What causes high pressure to go to low pressure? Well, that is the question when you're asking how entropic effects occur when ascribing cause to them. Well, I haven't got that, I'm afraid.
The cause of entropy is a container, and having a sun, having gas, which sun creates temperature. The temperatures then create pressures within the gas and creates gradients within the gas.
No, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. That's the cause of an entropy increase. You can say the entropy generation device in this instance is the sun. So it's causing an entropy increase, but it's not the cause of entropy.
Well, the sun, without the sun, you won't have a pressure gradient. You won't have...
Yeah, I agree.
You won't have gas cycles.
No, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
The sun is a massive entropy generator. Yeah, I agree. It's not the cause of entropy, though.
But entropy is just a description.
I know. Well, that description, when you describe hot going to cold or high pressure to low pressure, what causes high pressure to low pressure? Sun is not the cause, the overriding cause of that. It's a generation, something that can generate that effect we're describing. So yeah, it's an entropy generator, but it doesn't make it the cause.
Well, whoever made the sun is the cause. That's the final answer.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I agree. I couldn't have said it better myself. You ask me what's the cause of entropy. Well, that's down to the creation. That's down to how things and how they work are put together in terms of how they work. Well, that's down to creation. Well, that's down to a creator knowing that you can't have that without a knower. So, yeah, if you want to point the finger at God in this regard and say, what's the cause of entropy? Well, that's part of the mechanical structure that we experience. Well, the rules of the game were dictated by the creator. That's one of the rules of the game. Entropy is just one of the rules.
Yeah, but we look at a group of effects and we keep saying, oh, we can never find out what causes them. But if you keep saying that, you'll never find out. You can't just say, no, that we'll never know that. How do you know?
I'm pretty confident we're not going to ascertain the cause of entropy. I don't know what I can't say. You've got a good point. I argued this with QE and Adam.
Support is the cause of entropy.
I argued this with Adam and with QE, and every time they gave me a decent explanation, I ended up laughing along with them, and it seemed futile. Now, I'm not smart enough to be able to parrot off their explanation when I took the same position you took with them, which is to say, hold on, why can't we ascertain the cause of entropy? Maybe I'll ask Adam now. He's here on the panel unless he's tied up doing something. And we're still live, by the way.
I'm here. I don't know. I'm not smart enough.
Well,
There is a suggestion.
Wouldn't we have to eliminate the effect of entropy, like, or manipulate it in some kind of way?
I see what you're saying. You're saying you must start with the standpoint of it not happening to vary and manipulate something to make it happen, which means that you've got to start with it not occurring when it's a law of nature and occurring always. Kind of contradictory. Good point, Eli.
Very good point, Eli. And that's what I was going to say. I'm smart enough to know that I can't find out the cause. That's kind of the thing. You're asking, how does the universe work? What's the underlying cause of? We can't even describe an atom properly. Yeah. So to then pretend we can describe why it does things is just
arrogant.
For me, yeah, it's just a step so far that maybe it's not beyond the wit of man, but it's certainly beyond the wit of civilization at the moment. Way beyond it.
And to be frank, right, when we've got certain explanations that are in defiance of natural law in the heliocentric model, we're kind of so retarded, and I mean in the most literal sense, we are held back from inquiring about these things because we've got contradictions within the paradigm or religion that we're actually under in the Western world. So in that respect, we can be the pioneers of this sort of research. If anyone's going to figure out the cause of entropy, it isn't going to be a heliocentrist. It's going to be a flat earther. Somebody who realises the nature of reality and wants to understand more about it isn't going to be somebody that's parroting off verbatim what a sphere Earth in a vacuum would do under the circumstances that the model says it will do it when a graph's presented. They aren't the people that are going to ask these questions. In other words, when we have these conversations, and it's partly the reason I've kept the live show going, I feel very privileged. This is the most exciting conversation we've had all week. Yeah, Nathan, I'm excited too. Yeah, isn't it great to be a flat earther? Yeah, what a great note to round out. Oh, I'm so glad you all agree.
Well, I was waiting for a gap. Nathan, put my screen on if you would, please.
I was about to... Go ahead.
I know that Einstein's talking twaddle, right? I'm not pushing Einstein at all. But when Brian's talking about structural support, I call that relative density. The structural support that Brian's referring to is the atomic weight of each molecule in question that we're talking about. Einstein says, rightly or wrongly, that there is a mass-energy equivalence. Mass and energy are the same thing. That's why E equals mc squared. Now, I'm not pushing this as true. I'm just saying that this is the explanation that we need to move forward onto to try and work out why it is that the egg moves or doesn't move when we do stuff. Because Nathan says, I don't know what the cause of entropy is. Einstein says that mass and energy are the same thing. So that would mean that if the egg's got one value for mass and the medium's got another value for mass, and we make one value for mass bigger than the other, there is a disequilibrium there. And Einstein says that mass and energy are the same thing. So if we make one energy bigger than the other, then we have an acceleration because there's more power or structural support or relative density. But either way, there's an interaction between the medium and the object. And Einstein's got an explanation. So we need to start moving into E equals mc squared rather than F equals m1 times m2 divided by r squared, because that is the next step in the conversation.
Well, I can tell you why E equals mc squared is ridiculous if you want me to.
No, I'm not saying that it's true. I'm just saying that that's the next step for the conversation.
But feel free, and then I'll round up.
No, I'm not going to go any further than that.
No, I'm asking John to.
Oh.
Energy is matter in motion, and you can quantify that. Matter is not motion. but they convolute the two in that equation.
Yeah, but when I added the salt to the medium, it caused an acceleration, but they say density is not a force, but there was an acceleration, right? Well, Einstein would say, well, maybe there's not a force of pressure acting on the egg. Einstein would say that there's a mass-energy balance there that I've caused an imbalance with, and because I've increased the mass or the energy in one, it's acted on the other.
With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
The word mass, you incorporate verb and noun into one.
Which is what they do with gravity when gravity's defined as
Yes.
effect. They incorporate.
Yes, and that's why they
noun.
use mass. That's why they
Correct.
use mass. Right.
Correct. So they're
Yeah.
conflating the use of the word now, the noun and the verb. You're right. I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm just saying that that's the next conversation that we need to think about putting our toes into, because I was never taught anything about E equals MC squared in school, and I'm pretty certain that nobody else was either.
Love how you're disclaiming that you don't agree with any of this all the time, because you've had enough of me jumping down your throat when you put it out there and make it seem that way.
No, I actually agree with him with respect to what he says about mass and energy. I just don't agree with how he applies it to Narnia, because if he applied it on Earth, he would end up with relative density, but he didn't do it on Earth. He did it in Narnia instead and ended up with bendy spacetime.
Sorry for rumpusing Baldwin's imagination, Arwin.
Twice.
Hey, Righteous Force, are you there?
Yeah. And it's not about rumpusing my imagination. It's about letting me make my point that was actually on your side to help you understand the psychology of the opponent. But apparently you have no interest to master how the opponent actually thinks, because that's what I was doing.
And you're right. Let me apologise to him. Yeah, you're right. In that moment, I didn't care and I was wrong, and I'm apologising.
Well, then you can't stop
All
any
right.
fallacy anymore.
Apology accepted.
Then
Thank
you
you.
can't stop any more fallacies anymore.
Meanwhile,
No, Arwen wasn't doing a fallacy. He was showing how the mind works that creates the fallacy.
Correct. He was taking the position.
How models work.
He was doing something. I want to draw this to a close. Hello. Yes, he was drawing a comparison for the audience's benefit so they can understand the cognition of our opponent, and he was doing it very concisely, and I rumpused him. And I am sorry. And at the time, Arwen's assessment that I just didn't care was correct. That's why I'm apologising. His assessment's right. I'm sorry. I'm hoping we can move on to Righteous and, was it Sleeping Warrior trying to get his attention? Whoever was trying to get Righteous' attention.
We can, if I may.
Then make sure that you do that for the ballers next time, Nathan. If you're going to be fair, then you got to do that for every baller, and I can't wait to see that.
I have done that. I have made. I have done that.
Don't make disclaimers in their conceptions like I do.
Right, they don't. Correct. But when they have, I've also apologised. There has been several occasions I've done that, 10th, just for the record. Anyway.
Well, it's clear to my memory that we all get stopped when we go into a fallacy. I don't know why Arwen has to act differently than when we have to.
Because
I've just explained this.
I engaged.
Because he's explaining the justification and cognition of a baller when they justify a position that holds the contradiction, that's the contrapositive of the globe claim when it comes to Coriolis, how they can justify that in their own mindset by ignoring the rebuttals that Brian was offering and then justifying it thusly. Now, when he was explaining that and giving the repetition, I rumpused it because it had come through once, to be fair, Arwen, and I was trying to be concise, which is why I didn't care. But it's not right. You do need to summarise these things. I give you credit typically, but you were just getting on my nerves because you were doing it as a baller, and yeah, that was wrong. My bad.
All right, apology accepted. I let everybody know in the chat, and that if it happens the next time, I will do it just like that again. But I appreciate the the honest recognition of the situation for what it was, at least.
Good.
You want to apologize to Nathan what you wrote in chat about him?
No, he doesn't have to do that. I just want to move on. I just want to move on to Sleeping Warrior. Feel free to repeat your questions, right? Just if you're still here.
This, he'll never change.
I like Arwin as he is.
I'll never change helping you guys out understand the psychology of the opponent, man?
No,
you're not interested then. You're not interested.
Look who's rumpusing. Your immature responses is what I'm talking about.
God, oh God, please
well, how
no,
do
please
you
no.
like to get rumpused right when you're making a really good point for the first time?
I've been rumpused many times. I don't go into chat and call Nathan names about it like you did.
No, you just start yelling out loud. Hey, it's my turn.
Okay, right.
That's what you do.
Let's see. You projecting?
That's ridiculous.
No, that's actually historically correct, 10th man.
Are you historically projecting about your behavior?
This is ridiculous.
I dropped. You don't drop. You start rumpusing over everybody else until you get your way.
Okay, right, everyone else, just stop. Just stop for 2 minutes. Just let Arwin and 10th have it out. Otherwise, we can't hear what they're saying, and they're never going to get to a conclusion. Go ahead, Arwin and 10th.
All I'm asking for Arwin to do is act mature when things happen. If it doesn't go his way, don't drop. Don't go into chat calling panel members names. Just wait for another opportunity when the air clears and come back again. Act mature. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he's not making points. I'm not saying he wasn't rumpus. We all get rumpus. But we don't behave like he does when we get rumpus. That's all.
Arwin, go ahead.
I'm sorry about that. You really don't like that. Everything I said was not a made up. It wasn't slander. It was a very inconvenient tighten up analysis. And
that's not the argument. That's not what we're talking about.
I think that people that rumpus you when you're laying down an obvious conception, it's a sign of fear. And that's what I'm going to put down because of that. I'm sorry if you were insulted by that because you're very, very feely about it.
No, you know what? You can keep projecting all you want. You didn't answer the question. I'm not talking about your argument. I'm talking about your behavior.
What question?
Your behavior.
That's not a question. That's a description.
Your behavior. You have cursed me out.
Everyone else, stop. Everyone step off. Right.
No, let me finish. Because if we're going to have
last point.
Last point. About what happened.
Right. Hi, everyone else. Everyone else other than 10th and Arwin.
You're looking for a fight.
Everyone else, just 1 second. 10th's going to make his last point. Arwin's going to rebut. Then we're going to move on. 10th. Then Arwin. Then we move on.
Arwin, with witnesses on board, has cursed me out so many times, called me names, showing his immaturity, lack of respect for a fellow panel member, and he does it to a lot of people. That's what I'm talking about. Grow up, get some manners. Your arguments is not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, I hold my arguments in very high regard. I don't care if others don't. But if they rumpus me, then they literally insult my intellectual heritage. And I take grave offense to that. And if my behavior rolling out of that is slightly not mature enough to your standards, well, I'm sorry about that, Tam.
Slightly.
Yeah, slightly or grievously. I'm such an evil
both
guy.
stop.
I don't give a shit.
Please stop, both of you, 10th and Arwin. Hello. You both have your piece. Okay, hello. Both.
Have I used one curse word on him yet? Have I used one curse word on him yet?
No, you haven't.
Yeah.
You haven't. But that isn't the point. You've
Yeah,
both had your piece. You both had an extra couple of minutes.
Purposely
Please,
chosen words
but I
to
beg of you,
humiliate
Arwin
me.
and
Yeah.
10th, please. I just want to move on
I'm sorry, he called me childish. That's a direct insult. That's
your behavior. That's your behavior.
No, that's an insult.
That's your behavior.
That's an
I'm
insult.
calling you out.
No.
Yeah,
Sometimes,
you're wrong.
Arwin,
It's an insult. You're insulting me right now, and you say that you don't insult me?
Sometimes you act.
Look in the mirror, man.
No, Chocolate, hold on. I thought you were going to have something constructive. Everyone else, stop. Everyone else, stop, please.
So are you.
Please, Arwin, please. Please don't turn this into a shit show, Arwin. Arwin.
This is why, Arwin. This right here, what you're doing.
Stop attacking me.
Well, just stop turning it into a shit show when I've tried 4 times to draw a close to it. Both of you, 10th as well. I'm not saying either you are right or wrong. I'm not saying you have got or haven't got valid points. And Chocolate laying into Arwin's not going to help. Saying you agree. That's not going to help. It's just going to antagonise him more and we're never going to get to the end of it. Okay?
Well, then he's got to
act like a man if nobody can tell him nothing, Nathan.
You're not going to
Tell him
have.
go
Thank you,
F myself.
thank you, thank you,
Come on.
thank you
Yeah,
for
that's a
winding
great
up
example.
Arwin more. Thank you.
Yeah, why don't you all pile on? Let's see how they're.
No, I'm trying to stop them.
Pile on some more, Neil.
God.
Why don't you get loud and angry? That
Okay,
helps.
occasionally.
Look at this.
So occasionally, ladies and gentlemen, things will descend into chaos on your own panel. That's just one of those things you have to accept in life.
Sleeping Warrior had a point to make. I'd like to
I
hear
know, I'm trying to
Sleeping
get, that's
Warrior's-
all I want to get to, John. Sleeping Warrior. See if you can battle through Eli and Neil, who've decided they're going to pile in also now.
Because he's a fucking child.
Just stop! You can take it up with him afterwards.
Idiot. Get a grip on
Yeah,
yourself,
thanks, Neil. Thank you, Neil.
Yeah,
Okay, Neil, Neil, I am begging you. Neil, I've just got control of them, for the love of Jesus. Thank you, I've just got control of them. You think you need to add more fire, fuel to the fire? No, I'm just trying to move on to Sleeping Warrior. It's been 10 minutes.
Righteous Force, are you there?
Yeah.
Have you
Yeah,
had the
I'm here.
pleasure to watch my latest upload?
No.
No. Okay, that's a really quick conversation because you're quoted in there, not because I want to have a go at you, but I'd like to know whether or not you agree or disagree that the test that I demonstrated proves or fails to prove the cause of an effect. And your words were, in support of Bob and Zach, your words were, I'm more interested in the cause of relative density and whether or not I'd failed to control some variables. Well, I heard your words. I went and tested Bob's claim, and I tested your claim that there might be variables that I'd failed to control, and I demonstrated that the cause of the effect that Bob claims, if it was there, I didn't fail to control it. It just wasn't there. So I can't control something that's not there. I'd be grateful if you'd have the opportunity to look at the video, and next time we cross paths, perhaps we could have a conversation about your words in support of Bob and Zach's position, and we'll see whether or not I did actually fail to control some variables or not.
Okay.
All right. All right. That's fine.
Any
Like,
comment?
I don't agree. I mean, I agree that what you did proved what it proved, right? But now I'm looking at what causes the relative density. And that's what we were talking about earlier in the show. So what you did was perfectly fine.
Yeah, but you said that you
I
thought
agree
that
with-
there might have been extra variables that needed to be controlled that I didn't control.
Well, yeah, that's a possibility. That usually is always a possibility, right?
It is a possibility, and you're right. It is a possibility. So what I did was I did exactly what you suggested because I thought, well, I'll be
Okay,
honest.
stop. Don't repeat it. Just for the audience's benefit, I'll summarise what Sleeping Warrior did. He's got the exact same egg experiment, but he's run a coil, a wire to the bottom, positive and negative, with a high voltage battery in a Corona box with a little switch, so he can turn it off and on. And you can see the little bubbles coming on when he turns it on and runs current through it, and sod all happens. That's what we're talking about, just so the audience knows what we're talking about, even though Righteous, you're not expected to react to my summary of this thing that you haven't seen yet, so don't panic, and I'm not expecting you to suddenly answer all his questions.
Does he have a video of that?
Yes. So let me plug that. So Sleeping Warrior channel is the channel, and the video is called, drumroll, Sleeping Warrior.
The name of it is a bit convoluted. I might change it. It was something like, does relative density need a little kick? Is there a downward bias?
Close enough. You'll find it from that, hopefully. Righteous. Eli, you're causing a load of chaos. Thank you, Eli.
Can I continue?
I don't know. It depends if Eli's just decided he's going to wrap up this conversation before the end of it. I don't know. I've almost got control. Not quite.
Well,
Go ahead,
to address
Righteous.
Sleeping Warrior, I would have to watch the video, but I want to go back to, because it's still related on topic, right? It's about what causes the density, right? And I want to go back to what Adam said. Wait, I just want to
I'm interested. I'm interested in the extra factors.
I just want to focus on something. It's a little bit different, but actually it's not different. It's the same thing. But let me just get out what I want to say. Adam said we're changing. Remember what that good times for all container thing? He heated one side and the other side was cooled. And there was a difference in pressure. So we're not going to call it density. We're going to call it pressure. So in that case, Hold on a sec. I just want to round out with this, and then I want to go. With that case, it wasn't gas being produced on one end that caused that gradient. It was something else. That was my point. And that's it. I'm going to leave it on that.
It's temperature causes the gradient. Temperature is the cause of the gradient.
And it was only in the short term while there was temperature, while there was energy being put in. There was only in that short term once.
Sorry.
Right, I agree with that, Sleeping Warrior.
Really,
I agree with that, but
really...
energy...
Eli, they're so close. They're so close to nearly concluding their conversation.
But what is energy? Energy is what?
Well, it
right?
depends on who
Temperature
you ask.
is energy, right?
Depends on who you ask. Einstein says that energy and mass are the same thing, and I say that energy is the result of a force because, well, I don't know what I say in a minute, to be honest, because it's a bit, the word force is the issue. We need to work out what does it mean. But what I wanted to, because your words were, maybe there was some factor that I failed to control in my egg test that needed to be controlled. That was the bit I wanted, because Nathan said, go forth in science. And I thought, well, I already told Bob about this months ago, years, maybe 12 months ago. And I said to him, go and do the test that you're claiming because it doesn't do what you say it does. And he didn't do it. But then 12 months down the line, you've come in and started asking the questions, which would have been solved if Bob had done the test 12 months ago that he should have done. And he hasn't done it. So when you said what you said, I realized that Bob's influence on you caused you to ask that question. But if you'd have done it in the first place 12 months ago, you wouldn't have even done that.
Hold on. That's a big assumption. Don't level that assumption at him. Now you have, he's got to address it. But can you press play on your video while it's queued up and I've got it on screen?
It's true.
Hold on.
So
Eli wants to get... hold on,
righteous.
Sleeping Warrior. Eli's desperate to get a point in, so I might as well let him, otherwise he's going to keep trying. Go ahead, Eli.
Thank you for babysitting us children here in the chat, Nathan. You're the best. But look, isn't the question that you, Sleeping Warrior, didn't you set out to answer the question of what causes things or objects to sink, rise, or float?
Yeah, what causes acceleration if it's not gravity?
So now that you've got that independent variable, now the question, and let me get this right, now the question that you want to ask, or that you think is a fair question to ask a righteous force is, okay, so what causes density?
No. The question I was addressing was whether or not...
Not you. That's what I thought righteous was asking. Well, what's causing the relative density? After you've already one and done, opened and closed the case on, well, what causes things to rise, fall, and float? So now it becomes, okay, well, what's causing that?
Yes, that's Righteous's question, correct? So you're summarising Righteous's position and his question to Sleeping Warrior, right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I would like to answer that in a while, but obviously I'm not going to leave it go in now because there's other stuff people talking.
Well, Righteous has hinted 3 times that he's going to disappear shortly, so I don't know if he wants to round out. He might have already disappeared.
I already got to go. I'm getting dressed, so I'll see you guys later. Nice chat, though.
No, cool. Hopefully you watch that video and we'll
Righteous.
get this conversation going again. I love it. I'm so pleased Sleeping Warrior's done this and you've both been civil with each other. Thank you, both of you. Sorry it started off so badly.
It's all right. You guys have a good day.
In the hell out
You
of
too.
it, Arwin and 10th.
Let's not open that wound. I've just about managed to get a bandage on it.
Don't fucking poke me.
Oh,
ass.
God! Somebody's tore the plaster off. Who was that?
Chocolate. Yeah, that was who you think it was? A Sleeping Warrior again. You think it's funny?
Right, get lost, Sleeping Warrior.
Chocolate gets yelled in the background.
Like, wounded soldier. Oh, finally healed up in the hospital. Oh, let's tear open the wound.
Look what you've caused. Right, everyone stop. Look at what you have caused, Sleeping Warrior. This is...
Now you know how I felt when these two
See, he's literally laughing.
You're taking the piss out of him. Knock it off.
So Nathan, right there, it just proves who's immature.
Correct.
Don't you do it. This is not a validation for you to put fuel on the fire either. If anything, I would expect better from you, 10th.
No, it's not. I care for it. I care.
Who do you care for?
I care. If you let me finish and stop acting like a baby, you might hear the end of my sentence.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I could kill Sleepy Warrior right now. I really could.
With Tony that I've had for 2 years longer than you, 10th man, huh? You care so much for that. You know exactly what I'm doing. Oh, you know me so well. You know me so well, 10th.
That's not what I'm
Tony
addressing.
and me go back 2 years first.
This is type baby
Right, can we all stop? Arwin especially. Please, look, everyone else, I'm going to have to try and get charge of Arwin first. Everyone else, I'm sure you can hear me.
Offended because you thought I was offended over what Tony said. You were wrong.
I'm not talking about Tony.
Oh, yeah, you were talking about me. You were talking
yes.
about me, and you
Yes,
thought that I was acting like a baby again because you thought I was offended over what Tony said.
Okay, we've got that. Okay, guys, please can you stop shouting? Hello? Right, yes. Please, Arwin, please. Arwin, please, 10th, please. Hello, please. So, you don't need to keep shouting the points that you're trying to make at each other and your understanding of the points you've made at each other. You both understand your quibble. You both know the point you've made. Shouting it back at each other for 10 straight minutes again isn't going to help anybody. Please, can you take it up with each other after the fact in a chat comment where you can't shout at each other?
He's the one shouting, number one.
Don't care. Please.
I know, but you're mislabeling me.
I'm not. I'm not. Look.
You're mislabeling me, Nathan, because
10th, you are an angel. You are an angel.
Fuck up and let the conversation move
Why
on.
are you triggered? Why are you triggered?
You're fueling that fire. Yes, he is. You're not helping.
Let it move on. Let it move on.
Thank you, Arwin. Please. Arwin, you're the main cause at the moment.
Let it move on.
Look, listen, you bastard. Arwin, please go on mute. 10th, I'm going to ask you both. Guys. I'm going to have to do something about it soon. 10th, you too.
Fuck you.
10th and Arwin, can you both go on mute, please? You're causing total chaos. Neil, as soon as it starts, piles in. I can hear bloody Sleeping Warrior chuckling his fucking head off in the background.
Because Arwin got caught in his little baby game.
10th, that wasn't clear air for you to start this off again. 10th, you are just as bad, right? That was 10th. Arwin is now going to respond to that, and you're going to carry on. This is a complete shit show, and you are...
Because of Arwin. Because of Arwin.
No, it's not. It's you're helping. God.
Nathan, he just told the
Whose alarm's going off?
You're not going to address that? You got to be kidding me.
Whose alarm's going off? Turn that shit off.
Chocolate. Of course he wants it to move on. Son of a bitch. The same. Nathan, stop. Nathan, stop. Fucking grow up, Owen.
Oh, I have to grow up? Look at you. Oh, God. Look at you. You spent, all of you combined, spent 15 minutes whining over my conduct. You're a bunch of bitches. You're a bunch of bitches.
This is let me stop, right? Let me have my dig at Arwin now, Chocolate. No, that's pure projection, right? This is handbags at dawn, and you're calling us bitches. No, right? This is bitch behaviour, and I'm sick of it.
Not
right?
you,
All of you, whoever's interrupting right now, that is you included. It was Arwin. Please, can we just put a lid on it? Thank
I'm
you.
all for it.
Thank you.
I want to talk to Anthony.
Oh, thank Jesus. Yes, go ahead, please.
Yo.
Yeah, just on the E equals MC squared. I mean, to me, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
In reality, because as I said before, I think it was John that was talking there, John Shelton. If I burn a log, then it reduces the ashes, and I get heat off of it. Where does the log go? Is it coming back? You know what I mean?
Well, you've used the mass and burnt it, and the energy's been released, but you've not got that energy anymore. The energy's dispersed.
Yeah, it's transformed into something else. Transformed into ashes and heat or energy, if people want to call it energy.
Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. E equals MC squared is something that we've heard about, but none of us have ever understood the context in which they talk about it, because it's never really applied to us in real world. However, when you use the word structural support, and I use the word or the phrase relative density, disequilibrium, we realize that there's something relative going on. There is an interaction between the object in question in the medium it's in. That's why when you put things into a vacuum and there's no medium, mass is greater than zero, therefore there is a displacement. There's no structural support, there's no medium to interact with. So from that context, you can understand how E equals mc squared would be a perfectly acceptable explanation for the behavior of matter. Now, I'm not saying he's right, but with respect to that point about mass and energy being interchangeable, if you cause an imbalance in the energy, you're going to get a force because you've got an imbalance of that energy that Einstein said was mass and interchangeable. Not that I'm saying he's right. But what I'm saying is we're all asking the question now, and it is the next part of the conversation. And we seem to be there. We seem to be at that point. Ball earthers won't be at that point. We're way down the line of them.
Totally agree.
But it's good if we start talking about E equals mc squared and how Newton's wrong, they're going to have to be dragged into it. Now, we don't have to push Einstein as true, or we don't have to push Einstein as wrong. But if we move the conversation towards Einstein, then who's the one that's talking science if we're talking about Einstein compared to these numpties that are talking about Newtonian that was replaced in 1915?
Nobody would be talking about science in that scenario.
Okay, correct. All right, I retract the word science. We're talking about the current position by pseudoscience.
Aren't they moving away from Einstein, though? Like, just recently?
Because they know he's wrong.
No, hold on. Let's just correct that also. Hold on. Moving away from him. They haven't got to him yet.
No, I think Eli means the mainstream.
He means popular science.
The mainstream, yeah.
That's a question for QE. Is he there?
Yeah.
I thought I heard him.
That son of a bitch chalk that caused all this mess.
That's not what I was asking. Right, you've got the namesake quantum eraser, and they're asking, essentially, is the standpoint I suggest that the anti-flat earthers certainly haven't reached yet. They're still 106 years out of date, and we're not at the stage that Sleeping Warrior is saying, I don't agree with this, but we're discussing it because it brings us to questioning the paradigm, essentially questioning where we get entropy. But the question on the table is, isn't mainstream science, in quotes, although I jumped down Anthony's neck for it, veering away from Einstein? That's the question.
Is it? I don't know what mainstream science is doing. I mean, everyone's veered away from Einstein because it's all fallacious, right? So, I'm not trying to dodge your question. I think it's connected, but I've answered this question about 3.5 years ago in Skype chat, and I've posted this a number of times to the question you guys were asking. I don't know what to do after this. If you're following me.
No, tell us again, because I don't know what you're all about.
I'll do something better. Let me post it. I posted it in Ballbusters live stream. Let me see if I can post this here. Remember when I was talking about absolute, relative, and directions?
Yes.
And then I went into density, what causes. Remember we asked these questions to each other? Okay, let me do this. Is there a bias down towards the Earth for objects that are more dense than the surrounding atmosphere? That is relative density.
Yes.
Is there a bias up, that is, towards the sky for objects that are less dense than the surrounding atmosphere? Relative density again.
Yes.
So, never a violation of these two scenarios in the history of man. So, what's the cause of the bias of more dense / less dense objects to move towards the Earth and sky, respectively? Density? So, density causes more dense objects than the surrounding atmosphere, relative density, to fall towards the Earth. Therefore, based on that last statement, density causes relative density, which in turn results in more dense objects to fall and less dense objects to rise. But there's a problem there, right? Because
density causes density.
Density causes relative density is circular. So, isn't the actual question, why is the more dense medium atmosphere next to the Earth's surface? That's tantamount to asking, why does entropy always increase in nature?
It's more dense. Hold on, say that once more. Sorry, I didn't catch it. Why is the more dense next to the surface of Earth? I didn't catch all of it.
Why is the more dense medium, that's the atmo, next to the Earth's surface? That's the question.
not more dense.
It's tantamount to asking why does entropy always increase in nature?
I'm sorry. I know I'm rumpusing your conclusion. I'm so sorry.
Right.
When you say more dense, and then you say atmosphere in quotes, well,
atmo,
air. That isn't more dense. What do you mean more dense?
It's going to be more dense because gas is created at or near the surface, and at or near the surface is less volume, so it's more dense just by de facto standard, right?
Okay,
the higher you get in the atmo, there's more volume.
Perfect.
Right?
Thank you.
So it's.
I asked you to qualify it because earlier Adam took umbrage with this, and I needed you to qualify it so it wasn't just left contradicting what Adam said earlier. That was all.
Yeah. How many times I got to post this? You got to circle back to this argument again and again. Look, I'll go ahead and put it in Skype.
Yes, please.
Copy it.
I'm guessing I've had this 3 or 4 times. I'm going to guess 6 more times for me, just so you know.
Well, I have some stuff to say on the whole matter in a while. Obviously, when QB is finished.
No, I'm finished. I wrote this up because this was an argument in Skype about 3.5 years ago, and I just started brainstorming because it was revolving around the up and down situation, absolute and relative directions, and I just got sick of it. So I just brainstormed, and I brainstormed this whole thing out. I wrote it all up in like 5 minutes, and I posted it. And I've been posting it periodically because the subject always circles around back to this again for some reason. Yeah. And then everyone acts like we haven't gone over it.
Can I ask you a question then, just to spoil the fun of Anthony and Righteous Force when they come back and discuss this again? So, do we have
that son of a bitch chocolate doesn't interrupt? Yeah.
We'll see how we get on. Is there... Go, chocolate, go. I can see you on that mute button.
Yeah, I was going to say, you must really miss me, man. You keep saying my damn name. What's going on there, buddy?
Yeah, you're cool. It's all right. I'm just messing.
Is there an absolute down, Quantum Eraser?
Is there an absolute
Is down an absolute direction? Sorry, bad phrasing.
No. That's the first part of the presentation. Here's the first part. Absolute. Viewed or existing independently and not in relation to other things, not relative or comparative. That's absolute. Relative, on the other hand, is just how it sounds, considered in relation or in proportion to something else, right? The directions east, south, or west can only be identified in relation to north, right? Left can only be identified in relation to right, and vice versa. Forward can only be identified in relation to backwards, and vice versa. Up can only be identified in relation to down and vice versa. This is self-evident. Well, duh. Magnetic north is the only absolute objective direction, right? Can you identify east and west and south without magnetic north?
Nope.
Can you identify magnetic north without east, west, and south? Yep. It's objective. Yep. Can you have forward without backward? Nope. Can you have left without right? Nope. Can you have up without down? Nope. So let me copy this. That's
Can you have more
copy
dense
it. I'll
without
put
less
it in.
dense?
I'll put it in Skype.
Only
Go
a
on.
Sith deals in absolutes. I'll do it.
Can you have more dense than less without less dense?
No.
There you go. So when you said before, if relative density, then density, or if density, then relative density, that was a misrepresentation because that's not the claim, is it? It's right. If there is a differential between the two densities, then an acceleration will occur. And Einstein says that mass and energy are interchangeable. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with Einstein. I'm saying that he says that if you have 2 different levels of mass, you have 2 different levels of energy. Therefore, an acceleration will occur because you've got 2 different energies pressing against each other.
I don't see how that impacts what I just said. Maybe I missed it.
Well, it contrasts from what you said to something that you didn't say. You said if density, then relative density, and made it sound like a circular. But actually, it's if circular. 2 masses of different 2 different quantas, then you have 2 different
masses.
energies. Yeah,
2
mass
well,
and
you
energy
have to define mass then.
They're
What's
interchangeable. Mass and energy are interchangeable according to E equals mc squared.
You tell me when you're done.
What Anthony's doing is introducing disequilibrium.
That doesn't
two
impact my
different levels of
argument.
energy.
It stands as it lays.
No. Also, the vector is the effect that's being studied.
Yeah. So
no vector, no
like,
effect.
So, like when you've got two wrestlers and you've got fat guy and skinny guy, and you've got the grapple that happens between them, that's the interaction between the mass. But if you've got two different energies between the mass, then you get an acceleration, and that's what E equals mc squared can explain. Now, I'm not saying that he's right. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying that energy and mass are interchangeable, and where you've got a differential...
No, they're not. That's your problem. That's the problem. They're not.
Right.
And you can't define mass.
I'm just saying he does say that.
Well, that's the basis of your premise.
Listen, John got it right before the other John when he said that he... Listen, John got it right before when he said that Einstein uses the noun and the verb and interchanges them. And he's quite right. That is exactly what he's doing. But however, I'm just correcting when you said if density, then relative density. No, if two different values for the energy or the mass, then we have an imbalance of pressure, an imbalance of force, because energy and matter are the same thing, according to Einstein.
Yeah, but you're not,
there's the problem.
You're starting with disequilibrium then.
Which is an imbalance in energy.
According to Einstein, but that premise is wrong.
I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just correcting what you said before when you said if density, then relative density.
That's not a correction onto that statement.
It is a correction because it's not. The statement isn't if density, then relative density. It's if density value not equal to other density value, then there is a force. And Einstein would say that's because there's two different energies.
I'll try it again. I've said it. Hold on, QE.
And again.
I've tried. I've said it 4 times. Anthony's then saying, if disequilibrium, that's his starting point.
Yeah, I don't see how that impacts what I said. I'm sorry, I'm not catching.
Okay, let me explain it. Let me explain it again. So whether he's right or wrong is not the point. My point is, at this point, this conversation is moving towards this point. Because the density of one is being compared to the density of the other, and we can see an acceleration, Einstein would argue that because mass and energy are interchangeable words, he would say that there is greater energy in the medium and displaces the object, or vice versa, and we're adding energy by adding salt to the medium, and that's causing an acceleration. So he would say the energy of the medium is greater than the energy of the egg.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
E equals
I think I can resolve this.
E doesn't equal MC squared. That's the problem.
I know. I agree. So does John.
Right, John's going to hold on. John's going to summarize it for QE in a second, but he's not actually fighting for this cause, QE. He's just expressing what Einstein would explain in this scenario with the example of the egg movement when you've got a disequilibrium introduced by the salt. He's saying it's interchangeably described by Einstein as an increase in energy. Your rebuttal is that isn't comparable. It doesn't in any way change my debunking, and it doesn't speak to it. And he's just describing how Einstein would describe this scenario, not that he agrees with it.
But
I think I see, but yeah.
The reason why I'm pushing it, QE, is because the further away we can get them from Newton, the better. Because Einstein's a bullshit argument that they've got to go into because that's the current position. Well, we've got an explanation with the current bullshit argument that they've got to adopt because that's the current position in science. And if I've got that wrong, then I'll be corrected. But ultimately, pulling them away from Newtonian gravitation is only a good thing.
Well, I've been trying to do that for about 4 years now.
That's why that's why I peppered it earlier by saying they haven't got there yet. When somebody asked, oh, well, aren't mainstream science, in quotes, moving away from this now? It's like, yeah, the anti-flat earthers haven't even got to it. They don't even want to accept Einstein. And this reminds me of QE's earlier presentations, where it's like, look, I've got to get them to accept their current bullshit before I can pummel it. And that's basically what Anthony's saying. You've got to get them to the stage where they're actually relinquishing the 106-year, nearly 107-year out-of-date mass-attracting mass nonsense and get them to actually align with their current shite, which is Einsteinian nonsense, so that you can pummel it into the middle of oblivion. But he's expressing how he understands it or putting his opponent's position so that he's never going to get caught out on what their position is. That's all he's doing.
Okay.
Sorry, Shuey.
I'm waiting for John, actually. I'm sorry, Brian. John wanted to summarize this.
Well, I think what we have is it's what happens when you use ambiguities in mathematics and you don't rigorously define, your quantas, as you call them, because they're not going to define energy and they're not going to define mass. And then they're just going to flip between all those different words to try to give whatever bullshit they want to pass at the time. Pardon my French, but it's nonsense.
Yep.
Well, the definitions of words are meaningless.
Yeah.
Hard to Rufus.
Brian, go ahead.
Retract it.
Well done.
Yeah. What I would say is that if we're going to look at the E equals MC squared, if we're going to look at E equals MC squared, then the best place to start is where they are trying to implement it in our world today. And that is in the tokamak hydrogen fusion reactors. Because that's the premise they're working off of with hydrogen fusion, that they are filling a chamber with hydrogen and they are heating it to an extreme degree and until it becomes a plasma. Then they're using an electromagnetic coil at the base. That's not correct. I just can't remember the term for now. At the base of the chamber, which holds the plasma, because the plasma is too hot for a container. The nothing can contain it. So they hold the plasma and they fuse it. So they're turning hydrogen back into helium. So they end up with helium, and they end up with tritium, which I think is an isotope. I think it's hydrogen-3, which is a waste product of it, I think. And they end up with energy. Now, what's created in there is a lot of light. Now, I'm just going to go out on a limb, and I think I've said it before, that I believe light is like the very last step. Is that it's the least dense of all things. That after hydrogen, which is the least dense, let's say, physical matter we know of, after hydrogen comes light. So the next step after hydrogen is light, which is basically hardly is no density or the least dense, whatever you want to call it. Whatever. And so it's like the light, like I don't know how I don't exactly know how they're taking the energy, because I've read some different articles on it, but they're working off of the E equals MC squared. They're turning matter, right, which would be the least dense matter, hydrogen, back into the second least dense matter, which would be helium, and there's a waste product of hydrogen-3 tritium, and they're taking energy, whatever energy is. You have to use the term energy because I don't know any other colloquial term to use for it. But there's a huge amount of light being produced within this process. So there is definitely, like, it's as the example I gave earlier, when you burn a log on a fire, you end up with ashes, heat, and light. So there has to be a connection between matter and energy. I'm not going to use the term mass, definitely not, but there has to be a connection there. Because you can turn a log, you could just let me just finish this. You can turn a log into ashes, light, and energy, or a heat. What happens then? Like, is that log coming back? Not there and then, but trees do continue to grow. So Einstein might be wrong about a lot of things, but that doesn't mean he's wrong about that. He might be onto something.
Well, if I throw a rock, is throw part of the rock? Can the throw exist without the rock?
Well, you can't throw it without you throwing it. The rock is not going to move unless it's moved by something. But is that not a kind of a different analogy?
I ain't saying I know how reality works, but I do know when people are using words ambiguously to push forward agendas. So if it's not properly defined, then, you know, what do you have?
Well, you can not throw in and just think of it like you did throw it.
Yeah, let me read this. You might want to screen share, Nathan. It says, in physical theories prior to that of special relativity, mass and energy were viewed as distinct entities, and that's what Newton did, right? Newton looked at the apple, and then he ascribed energy to it and described that F equals ma mathematically, or a force was needed to accelerate it. That was Newton, right? Furthermore, the energy of a body at rest could be assigned an arbitrary value. So think of the egg at rest can be assigned an arbitrary value. In special relativity, however, the energy of a body at rest is determined to be mc squared. So that egg in equilibrium will be determined to be mc squared. Thus, each body of rest mass, m, possesses mc squared of rest energy. So the egg possesses rest energy, which potentially is available for conversion to other forms of energy. Well, that would include kinetic energy, right? The mass-energy relation, moreover, implies that if energy is released from the body as a result of such a conversion, well, adding more mass to that might be one of the ways to do that, then the rest mass of the body will decrease. Well, that's an acceleration, is it not? Such a conversion of rest energy to other forms of energy occurs in ordinary chemical reactions, but much larger conversions occur in nuclear reactions. Notice how it doesn't talk about relative density there, but you can slide it in perfectly. Now, again, I'm not saying that this is right. I'm just saying that this is what Einstein says. But it explains why the egg moves. And I'm like, hang on a minute. Why did we never learn about this? And it's because it was like, oh, Einstein can explain this, but we're not going to tell you about it. You flat earthers are going to have to go and work it out for yourself. Now, I might be wrong with this, but I'm saying that it's not as density is not a force. It's not as cut and dry as that, because Einstein does have an explanation that explains that the rest energy of the egg and the rest energy of the medium it's in, if they can be varied, then you get a form of energy called kinetic energy, and we can cause that. So I'm saying that this makes sense to me, and Brian will relate to this. John will dismiss it, and rightly so, but the other John will say, this is all conflating the verb with the noun, and he's quite right. But in any way, wherever this conversation goes next, we've got to start talking about this so that they have to drag them up to the current position to get away with this Newtonian nonsense, right? Nathan, do you see what I'm saying?
I do, but I had John object halfway through in the middle of your paragraph, so I'll let that objection get through and then I'm going to round out. So go ahead, John.
I would just like, every time that it mentions the word energy or mass, I would like a definition so that I can understand what they're talking about before I agree to or disagree to anything. Well, because if you don't define it, then you're just speaking gibberish. You could just be saying goo goo gaga at that.
Let me answer that colloquially. Every time they say energy or mass, I'm thinking energy or mass equals relative density. It's the relative density that he's talking about. So the mass per unit volume, or the amount of matter in that, like ping pong ball and golf ball, similar size, behave very differently in water. So that is what I'm thinking in my head when he says about energy and mass.
Now, you have to define those terms.
Agree.
So I like hearing myself back through that. I concur. This is John Squared. I concur with everything that John just said. I was thinking that same thing when you were on your ramble. You need to define energy. You need to define mass. You need to define rest mass, right? You need to define every single term that you used, because it's all convoluted horsepucky.
Right. We're trying to adhere to the Socratic method in terms of agreeing on what we're talking about. And if we're not defining what energy and mass are, then we might as well be talking in different languages to each other.
We are.
We are, because we're talking about Einsteinian, but this is going to be where I round out. I'm sorry to the guys in G+. Right. Did you want one last word on this, QE? Go ahead.
Yeah. Chocolate, he's a son of a bitch, man.
I'm not going to allow this. No moans about chocolate. Absolutely no way. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!